Chapter 593. Actually, Chu Xiu already had some guesses about Mei Qinglian's goal. And after hearing Mr. Lu talk about Mei Qinglian's life experience, he could roughly guess that everything Mei Qinglian did was for her former sect, the Yin Demon sect. Even if Mei Qinglian did not want to be a sect master and only wanted to be a saintess, she was the only one left in the Yin Demon sect. This burden had to be borne by Mei Qinglian. This request was not excessive in Chu Xiu's eyes. Mei Qinglian actually had no interest in power from the beginning. This could be seen from the way she addressed him. Now that the Yin Demon sect only had Mei Qinglian left, she should normally say that she was the sect master. But in reality, whether it was Chu Xiu or Mr. Lu, she had asked them to address her as saintess. Therefore, Mei Qinglian actually wanted to be a saintess from the bottom of her heart. Chu Xiu also looked at Mei Qinglian and said in a deep voice, "Saintess, you have been in the pugilistic world for so many years. You should know that things like promises are unreliable, regardless of whether they are good or evil." Mei Qinglian slightly raised her eyebrows. At this time, shouldn't Chu Xiu say that she was reliable? He actually said the opposite. "You mean that the promises of others are unreliable, and the promises of you, Chu Xiu, are also unreliable? Didn't you always say that you are trustworthy?" Chu Xiu casually waved his hand and said, "Keeping promises also depends on the occasion. In the face of benefits, any promises are unreliable. If there are benefits for me to stand with saintess, then I can naturally be relied on. On the other hand, if there are no benefits, why should I harm saintess?" In the Hidden Devil clan, although the Yin Demon sect only exists in name, their connections are still there. If I harm you, Lady Holy Maiden, I will definitely not have a place in the Hidden Devil clan. Furthermore, after experiencing the great battle between the righteous and demonic paths on Floating Jade Mountain, the people of the Yinma clan should know that I was supported by the saintess and Mr. Lu. If I were to harm the saintess, that would be repaying kindness with enmity, and that would be heartless and unjust. Even if they were from the demonic Tao, they could be ruthless to outsiders and disregard morality. But when it came to their own people, they believed that no one would be willing to work together with a villain who repaid kindness with enmity. In the face of benefits, I will only stand with you, saintess. I will not choose to harm you. So, saintess, you don't have to choose to believe in me. You just need to choose to believe in the benefits. That's enough." Hearing Chu Xiu say so much, Mei Qinglian could not help but snort softly. She said, "Chu Xiu, your sophistry is not inferior to your strength." Although Mei Qinglian said that Chu Xiu was sophistry, she could not help but agree with Chu Xiu's view. Harming her would not benefit Chu Xiu. Unless Chu Xiu was an idiot who was used to harming others to his own detriment, there was no reason for him to harm her. Chu Xiu said indifferently, "This is not sophistry, but the truth." "Saintess, what do you plan to do with Guanxiu for now?" Chu Xiu vaguely remembered that in the original plot, there seemed to be a huge change in the Guanzhong torture room. Could this huge change be related to Mei Qinglian? Chu Xiu carefully recalled the plot. He wanted to see if Guanxiu had died in this huge change and if he would be affected by the butterfly effect again. But as he thought about it, Chu Xiu's expression suddenly changed and became very ugly. This was because he could not remember any details about the plot. When he had decided to join the Guanzhong torture room, Chu Xiu had specially noted down a few major events in the Guanzhong torture room. But now, Chu Xiu could not remember them at all. This kind of thing was very normal for ordinary people. There were so many things, who could remember all of them, big or small? But when it happened to Chu Xiu, this kind of thing could be said to be strange, extremely strange. One had to know that Chu Xiu had already reached the realm of the unity of heaven and man. Although he did not have a photographic memory, it was not bad. At the very least, with the support of his powerful mental strength, his memory was dozens or even hundreds of times better than ordinary people. He had been in the Guanzhong torture room, and he would never forget the memory of the Guanzhong torture room. However, the fact was that he had indeed forgotten it. He had completely forgotten it, and he could not remember it no matter how hard he tried. But this was not the most terrifying thing. Chu Xiu also tried to recall other familiar plots just now, but he was shocked to find that most of the plots had become very vague. He remembered a certain time and place that a major event would happen, but he could not remember the specific details of that event, especially those related to people. With Chu Xiu's memory, this was absolutely impossible, especially when it was related to the original plot. These were Chu Xiu's trump cards, and the place where Chu Xiu settled down. He could forget everything else, but he could not forget these. But now he had forgotten it. Chu Xiu was sure that there was definitely a problem with him. Moreover, Chu Xiu carefully combed through his memories. Except for some memories about the original plot, he could not even remember some of the memories before his rebirth. But his memories of this life were very clear in his mind, which was very unreasonable. Now, Chu Xiu's thoughts were mainly based on the thoughts of Chu Xiu's previous life, not this life. So even if his memories were vague, they should be vague memories of this life. Why were such important memories of his previous life blurred? Mei Qinglian was just about to speak when she saw that Chu Xiu had fallen into this state of sluggishness, or even a dazed state. She could not help but ask, Chu Xiu, what's wrong with you? What are you thinking about? Why are you so obsessed? Chu Xiu was awakened by Mei Qinglian's words. He said to Mei Qinglian in a deep voice, Saintess, please use the Qin Nu Great technique to check my spirit and primordial spirit to see if there are any abnormalities. In the Jianghu, Chu Xiu rarely fought with people who were also proficient in primordial spirit's secret techniques. Therefore, the possibility of him being seriously injured by primordial spirit's secret techniques or being secretly plotted against was very small. However, he still had to wait for Mei Qinglian to check before he could make a decision. The Qin Nu Great technique of the Yin Demon sect was not considered a primordial spirit's secret technique, but its power in primordial spirit was even more terrifying than that of martial artists who specialized in this path. Mei Qinglian said in surprise, you were plotted against by someone in Xiafanshan with a primordial spirit's secret technique? Mei Qinglian knew that Chu Xiu's attainments in primordial spirit mental power were definitely far greater than most martial Dao masters, and even similar to her. If someone silently left a hidden injury on Chu Xiu's primordial spirit, how terrifying would this person's cultivation be? Chu Xiu shook his head and said, I'm not sure either, so I wanted to let the Saintess check to confirm it. As he spoke, Chu Xiu took the initiative to open his mind and let Mei Qinglian use the Qin Nu Great technique to check. Mei Qinglian nodded, and a rhythm bloomed out, seeping into Chu Xiu's mind. After a while, Mei Qinglian shook her head and said, your primordial spirit is very strong. There is no damage at all. There is no problem. Of course, there is also the possibility that someone buried the hidden danger in the deepest part of your primordial spirit. However, even with my strength, I couldn't detect it. That person's strength is definitely not a martial Dao master, but a true fire spirit refinement expert who specializes in mental power. Chu Xiu frowned. If that was the case, then it would be really troublesome. He was sure that there was definitely something wrong with his current state, but he couldn't find what was wrong. In fact, the blurred memory of the original plot was not that bad for Chu Xiu now. Chu Xiu had influenced too many things in the past few years, which also led to most things related to people having a butterfly effect under the influence of Chu Xiu. In the original plot, the Guanzhong torture room suffered a great change, and no one knew whether that great change would happen again or not. However, this matter was like a dark cloud, shrouding Chu Xiu's heart for a while. A powerful existence was actually not scary. What was really scary was the unknown. Mei Qinglian waved her hand casually and said, okay, don't think about these things. Are you under too much pressure in Xiaofan? Have you not recovered yet? You have finished your closed-door training here. Senior Wei Shia wants you to go. He has a good thing for you. Chu Xiu raised his eyebrows and said, good thing? What good thing? Don't ask so much. You'll know when you get there. With that, Mei Qinglian pulled Chu Xiu away. Chu Xiu said in surprise, you're going too? How are you going to explain Guanxiu? Mei Qinglian waved her hand casually and said, you don't have to worry about me. I have my own way of dealing with Guanxiu. Hearing Mei Qinglian say this, Chu Xiu didn't ask any more questions. He concealed his aura and followed Mei Qinglian out of Guanxi. They arrived at the border between Guanxi and West Chu. Late at night, Mei Qinglian brought Chu Xiu to a large house. A wisp of aura bloomed, and the door immediately opened. Mr. Lu walked out. Seeing Chu Xiu and Mei Qinglian, Mr. Lu nodded and said, "Senior Wei has been waiting for you for a long time. Come in." This house was just an ordinary merchant's house in name. The owner and servants inside were all ordinary people. However, when they saw Chu Xiu and the others walk over, it was as if they were looking at air. They weren't surprised at all and ignored them. Mr. Lu opened a secret door and brought Chu Xiu and Mei Qinglian underground. There was a world underground in this house, and it was even larger than the surface. At this moment, in a large hall underground, Wei Shiya was holding a cup of tea with his eyes closed, as if he was going to fall asleep at any moment. With his old appearance, no one would think that he was an expert at the peak of the true fire spirit refinement realm. Beside him was Chu Wuji. Chu Wuji didn't sit properly. He crossed his legs and played with a nimble white-browed parrot in his hand. When he saw Mei Qinglian come in, the white-browed parrot immediately shouted in a sharp voice, "Beauty! Beauty!" Chu Wuji also laughed and said, "It's Xiaolian. We haven't seen each other for many years. I miss you so much." Mei Qinglian raised her eyebrows and said, "Chu Wuji, if you keep talking nonsense, do you believe that I won't strangle your bird?" Chapter 594. Among the Yinma clan, most of them were old acquaintances. Almost all of them had worked together before. Chu Wuji had known Mei Qinglian for a long time. He also knew Mei Qinglian's character. Hearing this, Chu Wuji immediately put away the white-browed parrot in his hand. Otherwise, Mei Qinglian would really strangle his bird. Chu Xiu cupped his hands and said, "Greetings, Senior Wei, Senior Chu." Chu Wuji subconsciously touched his mustache and looked at Chu Xiu up and down. He said, "Not bad. You're much more promising than I was. You occupy 2 of the top 3 places on the Longhu list. You're the only one in the history of the Longhu list." Chu Xiu shook his head and said, "It's true that I'm the only one, but I dare not compare myself with Senior Chu." Although Chu Xiu was now the first on the Longhu list, Chu Xiu was not so arrogant that he could look down on everyone. When Chu Wuji was young, he might not be worse than him. In the past, Chu Wuji was only ranked 5th. However, Chu Wuji secretly joined the Yinma clan. During this period, his strength was almost a blank. When he appeared in Jianghu, Chu Wuji was already a martial Dao Grand Master. Naturally, he could not continue to stay on the Longhu list. Therefore, Chu Wuji directly became a martial Dao Grand Master from the 5th on the Longhu list. If not for this blank period, it would not be difficult for Chu Wuji to become the first on the Longhu list within 10 years. At this time, Wei Shiya slowly put down the tea in his hand. He looked at Chu Xiu and nodded. He said, "Chu Xiu, you did a good job this time. You even killed a little cow's nose from the Chunyang Dao sect. It's so satisfying." Wei Shiya did not care whether Chu Xiu became number 1 on the Longhu leaderboard or not. At his level, looking at the Longhu leaderboard was like watching a joke. It was just a bunch of youngsters fooling around. There was no need to care about the leaderboard. This matter was not as important as Chu Xiu killing Jin Yangzi. Wei Shiya did not talk nonsense with Chu Xiu. He put down the teacup and said with a serious expression, "Chu Xiu, you actually do not have a deep relationship with the Yinma clan. However, you have become the spokesperson of the Yinma clan in Jianghu. Even some of the older generation of Devil Dao martial artists are not as famous as you. You were recommended by Mei Las and Lu Jin. Even Chu Xiu spoke highly of you. I believe that it is difficult to find someone more outstanding than you in the Yinma clan, or even in the entire Devil Dao. Therefore, I do not care about your previous identity. I only want to ask you one thing. Are you willing to join the Devil Dao? Are you willing to carry the banner of the Kunlun Devil cult, which is seen as a thorn in the side by countless righteous sects? If you are willing, I can help you fight for everything that the Yinma clan can give you. However, if you are not willing, I will not make things difficult for you for the sake of our past friendship. From now on, Lin Yi is a dead man. There is only Chu Xiu in Jianghu. As long as you do not reveal any flaws, no one will know your true identity. The choice is now in your hands. It is up to you to decide how you will choose. Chu Xiu did not even think about it and said directly, in the past, I did not have a deep relationship with the Yinma clan. However, now that I have become Lin Yi of the Yinma clan, this relationship can be said to be very deep. Chu Xiu is me, and Lin Yi is also me. Mei Qinglian and the others thought that Chu Xiu was expressing his attitude. In fact, Chu Xiu was saying that he was himself. Chu Xiu was him, and Lin Yi was also him. In the beginning, Chu Xiu actually did not want to rely on the Devil Dao. In the original plot, he could no longer replicate the path that he had taken. Moreover, even if Chu Xiu wanted to replicate it, he did not know what he had experienced in the original plot. Therefore, for the original Chu Xiu, he only pursued the capital to survive and the power that he possessed. He did not even think about relying on the Devil Dao. However, fate made fools of people. It was unknown whether it was fate or karma. In the end, Chu Xiu still had a relationship with the Devil Dao. Even now, his karma with the Yinma clan had deepened. Even if he did not want to carry the banner of reviving the Kunlun devil cult, he still had to carry it. When they heard Chu Xiu's words, everyone present breathed a sigh of relief, especially Lu Jin and Mei Qinglian. The two of them were on good terms with Chu Xiu. If Chu Xiu chose to give up in the end, it would not only prove that they did not know him well, but it would also increase the risk of being exposed. For some people, especially those of the Yinma clan who had always been hiding in the dark, if they could not be friends with a living person, they could only be friends with a dead person. Wei Xia nodded with satisfaction and said, since that's the case, then sit down. Chu Xiu boy, I have something for you to do this time, and the reward is very simple. Take it as a meeting gift from me. It's an opportunity for you to accumulate a lot of fame and power in a short period of time in the Yinma clan. What opportunity? Wei Xia's old, blurry eyes flashed with astonishment. He said coldly, a chance to avenge the 5 great sky devils of the 9th heaven mountain. Chu Xiu was shocked. The Yinma clan wants to make a move against the entire righteous pugilistic world? Although the 5 great sky demons of 9th heaven mountain had been eliminated, they had stirred up a lot of power. After the Kunlun devil cult, the 5 great sky demons of 9th heaven mountain were the first Devil Dao faction that many righteous sects had joined forces to kill. In terms of strength, the 5 great sky demons of 9th heaven mountain and their subordinates combined were not as strong as the current moon-worshipping cult. However, the 5 great sky demons of 9th heaven mountain had made the righteous pugilistic world fearful because they had seen the power of the revival of the Devil Dao. A single spark could start a prairie fire. Back then, the 5 great sky demons of 9th heaven mountain were that spark. Therefore, they had to be completely extinguished before the prairie fire started. However, although the 5 great sky demons of 9th heaven mountain had been defeated, their Devil Dao alliance was not meaningless. At the very least, when the Devil Dao was at its weakest, it was Wei Xia and the others who had told the Devil Dao disciples in the pugilistic world that the Devil Dao still had the power to fight. It was also because of that battle that Wei Xia and the others rebuilt the Devil Dao's backbone that had been broken after the battle with the Kunlun devil cult. It was very meaningful. Even though Wei Xia had not reached the true fire spirit refining realm, his position in the Devil Dao was actually comparable to that of the true fire spirit refining realm. Wei Xia waved his hand and said, I believe that sooner or later, the Devil Dao will make a move against the righteous pugilistic world. However, now is not the time. I am not that crazy. If I make a move now, it will not be an opportunity for you. Instead, it will be sending you to your death. As he said that, Wei Xia laughed self-deprecatingly and said, to put it bluntly, the Devil Dao is still no match for the righteous Dao sections. It is not a big deal to be a little cowardly. Only an idiot would charge forward knowing that they are no match for them. At the side, Chu Wuji said faintly, back in the Nine Heaven Mountain, you and the other 4 seniors also knew that you were no match for them, but you still did it. Wei Shia said lightly, that was a special case. If the world was filled with smart people, then no matter which faction it was, it would be like a plate of loose sand. Sometimes, a force needs someone to be that idiot. Even if it means losing his life, it's worth it. Wei Shia waved his hand casually and said, all right, let's not talk about these old things. Let's talk about serious matters. Chu Xiu, kid, I am not asking you to deal with the righteous Dao sections. Now, the Yinma clan does not have the power to seek revenge on them. The revenge I am talking about is the small factions that participated in the battle against the Nine Heaven Mountain in the past. In the past, when the righteous Dao sects attacked the Nine Heaven Mountain, countless small factions attached themselves to them and hit the Devil Dao Alliance while we were down. They took our heads to the righteous Dao sects to exchange for rewards and reputation. In that battle, the top combat power of the Nine Heaven Mountain was killed by the righteous Dao sections. However, most of the low-level disciples died at the hands of these people. Now, this group of people has used the resources and benefits obtained from that battle to develop their reputation. Now, it is time for them to pay the price. As he said that, a cold light flashed in Wei Shiya's eyes. Suddenly, the temperature in the hall dropped a little. In the past, the 5 great sky demons of the Nine Heaven Mountain had formed the Devil Dao Alliance. How grand was that? In the end, they were all defeated overnight. Of the 5 great sky demons, only he, who was the weakest and the youngest, was left. He had struggled at death's door until today. All these years, of course, Wei Shiya had hatred in his heart. However, he had endured it because it was not the time for revenge. But now, the Devil Dao was on the rise. The Bright Demon clan was led by the moon-worshipping cult. They had even recruited disciples in the Jianghu with great fanfare to resist the righteous Dao sections. Although the Yinma clan was keeping a low profile for the time being, they could not remain silent. Wei Shiya looked at Chu Xiu and said, Chu Xiu, kid, I will give you a list. At the same time, I will also give you some people. According to the power on this list, I will eliminate them one by one. I don't care about the process, I only care about the results. 300 years ago, these small factions were not ranked in the Jianghu. But 300 years later, with the benefits they gained from that battle, some of them are no longer what they used to be. However, I believe that with your strength, it will not be a problem to solve these problems. After it is done, I will gather the Yinma clan to celebrate for you. You will be the first person of the Yinma clan's younger generation. Chu Xiu nodded. He cupped his fists and said in a deep voice, thank you, Senior Wei. Chu Xiu should indeed say thank you. This time, Wei Shiya had given him a great opportunity. The 5 great sky demons of the 9th Heaven Mountain were very important to the Yinma clan. Now that Chu Xiu had taken the lead to take revenge for the 5 great sky demons of the 9th Heaven Mountain, his reputation and prestige would be immeasurable. Moreover, after this, Wei Shiya would gather the entire Yinma clan to celebrate for him. This was almost like Wei Shiya supporting Chu Xiu and confirming his status in the Yinma clan. From now on, Lin Yi would be the direct descendant of the Kunlun devil cult. There was no longer any doubt. Chapter 595. Wei Shiya said that he wanted to give some people to Chu Xiu, but he didn't want to give Chu Xiu all the elites of the Hidden Devil clan. There were many forces in the Hidden Devil clan, and their interests were complicated. Not to mention that those people wouldn't listen to Chu Xiu, some of them wouldn't even listen to Wei Shiya. For example, Mr. Lu was a member of the Phaseless Demon sect, and he had a good relationship with Wei Shiya. Even the whole Phaseless Demon sect had a good relationship with Wei Shiya. However, relationships were relationships. Once it involved interests, they had to be more cautious. Therefore, Wei Shiya didn't use other people, but found a group of rogue cultivators of the Hidden Devil clan. The composition of this group of rogue cultivators was very complicated. Some of them were rogue cultivators who had obtained demonic cultivation methods, and naturally joined the demonic path. Some of them were the descendants of some survivors of the Nine-Heaven Demonic Alliance, and they all respected Wuxia. The most difficult part was those warriors who, for various reasons, had no choice but to fall into the demonic path, or were forced into the demonic path by those righteous sections. These people were not weak, and some of them even had a good reputation in the Jianghu. All of them were eccentric and unruly. Wuxia handed these people over to Chu Xiu, on the one hand, to give him strength, and on the other hand, to let Chu Xiu integrate these people, and condense them into a force, instead of a plate of loose sand. Of course, there was no consideration in this. Wuxia believed in Chu Xiu. If Chu Xiu couldn't even handle such a small matter, then what qualifications did he have to complete this task? Therefore, Wuxia didn't go with Chu Xiu himself, but asked Chu Wuji to take Chu Xiu there. As for Mr. Lu and Mei Qinglian, their identities were special. One belonged to the Yin demon sect, while the other belonged to the phaseless demon sect. After Wuxia gave them some instructions, he let them all leave. The underground stronghold of the hidden devil clan was not small. As Chu Wuji led Chu Xiu to the place where those people were, he said with a smile, "Senior Wei really thinks highly of you, but he's also very careless. He actually gathered those guys together and let you lead them. Anyway, you have to be careful later. Don't think that you have the strength to fight against a martial Dao Grand Master, and you're ranked 3rd on the Longhu list in the demonic Dao, but those guys might not buy it." Taking a deep look at Chu Xiu, Chu Wuji said blandly, "I was one of them." Chu Xiu raised his eyebrows and said in surprise, "Senior Chu, with your strength, when you joined the Diabolism, you were not cultivated and put in an important position?" Chu Wuji said blandly, "The Diabolism is not a charity. Those righteous sects are right about one thing. Most of the Diabolism are ruthless and ruthless. The more strength you can show, the more benefits you can bring to others, the more treatment you will get. When I first joined the Hidden Demon sect, many sects of the Hidden Demon lineage extended an olive branch to me, but these sects did not come for me. They came from my ranking on the Longhu list, from my identity as a member of the royal family of the Wei Kingdom, so that they could use this identity to do something. To put it bluntly, they are only using my identity. The reason I want to join the demonic path is to pursue great power, not to help others. So, I refuse them. Among the people you are about to lead, those who were sent to the Diabolism because they cultivated the Diabolism are easy to manage. They are the descendants of the Diabolism Alliance in the Nine Heavens Mountain. The hardest to manage are people like me. I have strength, a temper, and I don't want my freedom to be restricted. My temper is extremely eccentric. It is not easy to convince them." Chu Xiu narrowed his eyes and nodded. Since Chu Wuji said so, it proved that this group of people was really hard to deal with. However, Chu Xiu did not say much. He just said blandly, "Then, can I kill people?" Chu Wuji looked at Chu Xiu with a faint smile. He knew that Chu Xiu's murderous nature was not ordinary. Moreover, Chu Xiu was not a bloodthirsty person. For him, killing was just the simplest method to achieve his goal. Having been in the Diabolism for so many years, Chu Wuji had seen all kinds of bloodthirsty demons and murderers who killed without batting an eye. However, these people had all fallen to the lower hand. Don't be fooled by their ferocious appearance and claim to have countless blood stains on their hands. However, they could not compare to Chu Xiu. These were just pitiful people who were controlled by killing intent. Killing intent was just an emotion. They could not even control themselves, so how could they not be pitiful? On the contrary, people like Chu Xiu, who saw killing as a tool and did everything to achieve their goals and benefits, were the most terrifying. Such people sometimes would not kill with their own hands, but a word or a decision from them could bury countless lives. Chu Wuji said blandly, "I can't tell you whether you can kill people or not. You need to think about it yourself. In any case, whether it is me or Senior Wei, we ultimately look at the results. If you can get things done by killing people, then go ahead and kill. On the contrary, if you cause any trouble because of killing people, then you have to bear the consequences yourself." Chu Xiu nodded in understanding. Chu Wuji pointed to a closed hall in front of him and said, the people arranged by Senior Wei are all inside. Get ready and go in. At this time, there were more than 300 people squeezed inside the hall. There were old and young people in this group, and they were dressed strangely. However, it was certain that this group of people was very strong. Among the 300 people, the weakest was at the Three-Flower Realm, and the strongest was at the Unity of Heaven and Man Realm. Among them, there were more than 30 martial artists at the Unity of Heaven and Man Realm. This number was even more than some of the weaker sects in the 7 sects and 8 schools, such as the Azure Water Sword sect and the Ba Mountain Sword sect. At this time, the hall was in a mess. Some people were whispering, some were making noise, and some were cursing. There were only 10 chairs in the hall, and only 10 people were sitting there. There were bloodstains on the ground, as well as a few pale-faced people who were recovering from their injuries with resentment on their faces. Clearly, before Chu Xiu had arrived, this group of unruly people had already fought. Furthermore, they had fought over something as senseless as fighting over seats. At this time, on the seat, a thin martial artist in his 40s wearing a black robe, with triangular eyes, said, "Luo Sansong, Zhao Qingping, and everyone else, don't just sit there. Tell me, why did Senior Wei ask us to come this time? To make us all listen to the words of a junior? This is simply a joke." This person was playing with a golden scorpion in his hand. It looked very agile, but if one looked closely, they would find that the scorpion's tail was as black as ink. It was obviously highly poisonous. This martial artist was the famous, poisonous gentleman, Tao Gongwang in the Devil Dao. In fact, to be precise, this person did not cultivate the Devil Dao, but the Poison Dao. However, in the eyes of most people in the Jianghu, this kind of evil thing belonged to the Devil Dao, so Tao Gongwang was also included in the Devil Dao. This person had wandered in the Jianghu for more than 10 years. Although he was ruthless, he was also cunning. Therefore, even though he had offended many people, he had always been safe and sound. However, he could only blame his bad luck. A few years ago, he used human blood to raise poisonous insects in the land of West Shu and ran into the hands of little celestial master Zhang Qingzhen. He was almost killed by Zhang Qingzhen's 5 thunder technique. Fortunately, he had more life-saving items, so he escaped with his life. From then on, Tao Gongwang joined the Hidden Devil clan and began to keep a low profile. He did not dare to go too far. This time, Wei Shiya asked them to gather together and listen to Chu Xiu's orders to avenge the 9 Heaven Demonic Dao Alliance. In fact, Tao Gongwang refused in his heart. In Tao Gongwang's opinion, although Lin Yi was strong and ranked 3rd on the Longhu list, he was still a junior. When Tao Gongwang became famous in the Jianghu, Lin Yi was still a child. Now that he was asked to listen to the other party's orders, Tao Gongwang naturally resisted. Of course, these were all secondary. After all, people under the eaves had to bow their heads. Lin Yi had a big backer like Wei Shiya, so it was fine for him to listen. However, he really did not want to be enemies with the righteous Dao anymore. A few years ago, he was scared by Zhang Qingzhen, which left a shadow in his heart. It was because of this fear that Tao Gongwang joined the Hidden Devil clan to seek protection. When he first joined the Hidden Devil clan, he wanted to keep a low profile. In the end, even the Hidden Devil clan did not keep a low profile anymore, so he was naturally unwilling. Strictly speaking, he was not a member of the Hidden Devil clan. What did the 9 Heaven Demonic Dao Alliance's vengeance have to do with him? He would definitely find an opportunity later to push this matter away completely. He did not care about the others, but he did not want to go. Luo Sansong was a strong man sitting at the head of the table. His muscles were bulging and his appearance was masculine, as if he was cast from steel. In his hand, there was a ferocious-looking blood-colored beheading knife with a ghost's head. It was half the height of a person, and it was stained with black and purple blood rust, making it look extremely fierce. Blood-mad saber, Luo Sansong was not a standard Hidden Devil clan warrior. He was a rogue cultivator, but he was reckless and liked to fight. His personality was also a little violent, so he had offended many people in the Jianghu. After offending some ordinary warriors, Luo Sansong became stronger the more he fought. However, he had once inadvertently offended many of the warriors of the younger generation of the 9 great clans during the gathering of the younger generation. Thus, he was hated and hunted down. For someone of Ing Bailu's status, even if Luo Sansong had offended him, it was impossible for him to hunt down a rogue cultivator with great fanfare. However, some of the disciples of the other aristocratic families were narrow-minded, so Luo Sansong was chased miserably by them. She was almost forced into a desperate situation. In the end, she was rescued by an expert of the Hidden Devil clan, so she successfully joined the Hidden Devil clan. Chapter 596. The people of Diabolism all had their own thoughts. In fact, the entire lineage had never been monolithic. Not everyone wanted to avenge those who died in the 9 Heavenly Mountain Diabolism Alliance. Therefore, Wei Shiya let Chu Xiu lead these people and sort them out. Compared to Tao Gongwang's many thoughts, Luo Sansong's thoughts were much simpler. Luo Sansong sneered and said, "Tao Gongwang, you have the most trivial matters." "Junior? What's wrong with Junior?" "Strictly speaking, my seniority is still lower than yours." "Why, you don't accept me? Why don't we have a fight?" Tao Gongwang was speechless by Luo Sansong's infuriation. He snorted and said, "This is not a matter of seniority. My Yinma lineage has been hiding in the dark for so many years. In the end, Senior Wei let a junior with little experience lead us to provoke the righteous path. Have you considered the danger of this matter?" Luo Sansong waved his hand and snorted, "Consider my ass. I don't care if it's the righteous path or the diabolism. As long as that kid is strong enough, I will kill whoever he asks me to kill. On the other hand, if that kid is not my match, then he can't control who I want to kill." Tao Gongwang had no way to deal with Luo Sansong, so he turned his gaze to Zhao Qingping. Compared to the two of them, Zhao Qingping was much more normal. Zhao Qingping was a middle-aged man in a black robe with a cold expression. When the others began to argue, he sat there alone without saying a word. At this time, seeing Tao Gongwang's gaze, Zhao Qingping just said lightly, "I don't know Lin Yi, and I don't know whether it's good or bad for my Yinma lineage to take the initiative to attack those righteous path sections. I only know that this matter was ordered by Senior Wei. Lin Yi was also chosen by Senior Wei. I only believe in Senior Wei. I believe that Senior Wei will not be wrong." Compared to Tao Gongwang and Luo Santong, Zhao Qingping was from the orthodox diabolism. In the past, his ancestors followed Wei Shiya to the 9 Heavenly Mountain, but they were killed in that battle. Zhao Qingping's lineage had always been protected by Wei Shiya. Therefore, no matter what Wei Shiya said, Zhao Qingping would do as he was told. To him, Wei Shiya was no different from his patriarch. Seeing Zhao Qingping's attitude, Tao Gongwang stopped talking nonsense with him. Instead, he turned his gaze to the others and discussed the plan with them. Although this group of people could be considered part of the Hidden Devil clan, in reality, they all had their own thoughts. Some of it was because of their personalities, like Luo Sansong. But there were also many people like Tao Gongwang who had their own plans. Just when everyone was discussing enthusiastically, the door was pushed open, and Chu Wuji walked in with Chu Xiu, who had already put on a mask. The noisy lobby instantly quietened down. Chu Wuji's prestige was quite great in the Yinma clan. He was the martial arts master who was closest to the true fire spirit refinement realm. Even the arrogant Luo Sansong did not dare to disrespect him. Chu Wuji looked around and said indifferently, "I'm sure everyone knows why Senior Wei has gathered all of you here. This is Lin Yi, a young talent of my Yinma clan. I won't care about what happens next. Leave it to Lin Yi to handle. You guys can continue talking." After saying that, Chu Wuji turned around and left, leaving Chu Xiu alone. Although Wei Shiya did not say that it was a test, in Chu Wuji's opinion, it was actually the first test for Chu Xiu. If he could not even deal with this group of guys, Chu Xiu was not worthy of his current position. Seeing that Chu Wuji had left so decisively, everyone present was stunned. Then, they whispered to each other. Some of them even secretly discussed something through voice transmission. They did not show any respect for Chu Xiu. There were many arrogant and unruly people in the Diabolism clan. Not to mention that Chu Xiu was not a martial arts master and did not have that many qualifications. Even if Chu Xiu became a martial arts master, these people might not be convinced. They had been so respectful to Chu Wuji previously because of the reputation and prestige that Chu Wuji had accumulated in the Yinma clan over the past few decades. As for Chu Xiu, his reputation in the Jianghu and his ranking on the Longhu list were not enough to completely suppress the Diabolism martial artists present. Looking at everyone present, Chu Xiu narrowed his eyes and said indifferently, "Everyone, I think you should have heard of my name, Lin Yi." Hearing this, someone immediately sneered in a low voice. There was a hint of disdain in their tone. They had heard of Lin Ye's name, but Lin Yi had said it right in front of them. He was a little too arrogant. However, Chu Xiu then said indifferently, "Of course, it doesn't matter if you haven't heard of it. Now that you've heard of it, please don't forget it. I don't think I need to repeat why Senior Wuxia gathered all of you here. What's going to happen next is actually very simple. I don't need you to use your brains. All you need to do is use your knives to kill. You'll kill whoever I say. It's very simple, isn't it?" As his words rang out, a sliver of dissatisfaction appeared on everyone's faces. Wasn't this Lin Yi a little too arrogant? Although they had to admit that Lin Yi was indeed powerful and had even killed the martial arts grandmaster Xianxia of the Chunyang Dao sect, their seniority was obvious. Most of the people present were more experienced and had a higher seniority than Lin Yi. Lin Yi did not even say anything modest. Instead, he directly spoke in such a commanding tone. If this wasn't arrogance, then what was? Gong Wang sneered in his heart when he saw Chu Xiu's attitude. Previously, he had thought that Lin Yi was someone special. Since he was ranked third on the Longhu list, he would definitely not be that bad. Now, it seemed that Lin Ye's strength aside, he was arrogant and brainless. There was no need to worry about him. Tao Gongwang stepped forward and coughed. "Young friend Lin, I'm 1 generation older than you, so it's not wrong for me to call you young friend. It's true that Senior Wuxia called all of us here and told us that it's not wrong to listen to your instructions this time. However, this doesn't mean that we have to hand over our lives to you. Young friend Lin, are you clear about the current situation of the Yinma clan? If you rashly bring us to the righteous sects to cause trouble, we'll be in danger once the top forces of the righteous sects intervene. The Yinma clan has been keeping a low profile for so long. Even if Senior Wuxia decides to take action against the righteous sects, he has to wait for a long-term plan before taking action. He shouldn't act rashly now." Tao Gongwang was a wily old fox in the Jianghu. He was quite good at scheming and scheming. On the surface, he did not directly refute Wuxia's words, but he was persuading Chu Xiu to take a long-term plan. As for how long this long-term plan would take, it was not certain. When they discussed until Lin Yi was punished by Lord Wuxia because of his incompetence, his goal would be achieved for the time being. This was an overt plot. If Lin Yi agreed, he could stall for time. If Chu Xiu did not agree, he would definitely be resisted by most of the martial artists present. Chu Xiu narrowed his eyes and looked at Tao Gongwang. "In that case, you don't want to avenge those seniors who sacrificed for the 9 Heavenly Mountain Demon Dao Alliance back then?" Tao Gongwang hurriedly said, "Don't talk nonsense. Everyone here can testify that I've never said such a thing. You didn't say it, but that's what you think in your heart." Chu Xiu coldly snorted and said, "Tao Gongwang, I know you. In the past, you were almost killed by Zhang Qingzhen's 5 Thunders technique in West Chu. You escaped from Zhang Qingzhen's hands, but you were also chased by the Celestial Master Mansion. It was the Yinma clan that took you in. For people like you, if it wasn't for the Yinma clan's protection, you would have already been killed by others. How could you have the chance to talk nonsense here? The Yinma clan has done you a favor, but now you are making excuses and refusing to do things for the Yinma clan. You are ungrateful. Also, who are you calling little friend? Do you have the qualifications to call me little friend? Ridiculous. An ungrateful idiot who doesn't know the meaning of the word is useless. You only know how to rely on the big tree of the Yinma clan to seek protection. What's the use of a stupid insect like you? As Chu Xiu's last word fell, a powerful and shocking spiritual power instantly burst out. Tao Gongwang was worthy of being an old man who had been in the Jianghu for a long time. The moment Chu Xiu's spiritual power burst out, he had already sensed the danger. He immediately released a large number of poisonous insects, but they didn't rush towards Chu Xiu. Instead, they protected his body. However, as Chu Xiu's soul-suppressing Hades song was displayed, the spiritual power formed ripples. Every time the primordial spirit attacked, a large number of poisonous insects would fall to the ground. Almost in an instant, there was already a blank space in front of Tao Gongwang. Even he himself was attacked by the soul-suppressing Hades song. There was a sharp pain in his head, as if his soul was about to be shattered. Before Tao Gongwang could cry out in pain, Chu Xiu took a step forward and appeared in front of Tao Gongwang almost instantly. One hand was already on Tao Gongwang's neck. Cold demonic qi instantly burst out and sealed Tao Gongwang's meridians. There was a look of horror in Tao Gongwang's eyes. The others didn't expect that Lin Yi would actually attack him. It was simply unreasonable. Just as they wanted to dissuade Chu Xiu, and Tao Gongwang also wanted to open his mouth to beg for mercy, the demonic qi in Chu Xiu's hand burst out. He directly crushed Tao Gongwang's neck and threw him to the ground as if he was throwing a dead dog. Everyone present looked at Tao Gongwang's corpse with a look of disbelief in their eyes. Tao Gongwang died just like that. Lin Yi was actually so daring to kill someone as soon as he came up. Chapter 597. Tao Gongwang's death was actually very unjust. Although his strength was far inferior to Chu Xiu's, he had many evil poisonous insects on him. These things were his trump cards. Although he did not dare to say that he could defeat Chu Xiu, he could at least guarantee that he could last a few rounds in the hands of Chu Xiu. In the past, Tao Gongwang was able to escape from the hands of Zhang Qingjin. This was actually enough to prove Tao Gongwang's strength. However, Tao Gongwang did not expect that Chu Xiu would actually have the intention to kill him. They were both from the hidden devil lineage. It was fine if Chu Xiu made a move in public, but he actually dared to kill him directly. Tao Gongwang did not expect this, nor did the others. Therefore, he died. He died a very unjust death. He was strangled before he could use his trump cards. Chu Xiu looked at the surrounding demonic Dao cultivators. Some were furious, some were at a loss, and some were waiting to watch a good show. He said indifferently, "One cannot forget one's roots. Even if we are people of the demonic Dao, we still need to know what is morality and what is kindness. All these years, you have been protected by the hidden devil lineage. You have preserved your strength and lives. Now that we need to use your strength, you are here to make excuses. If this is not ungrateful, then what is? The hidden devil lineage does not need useless trash. We do not need ungrateful stupid insects. You have seen Tao Gongwang's fate. Do you want to be an ungrateful stupid insect and be cleaned up like trash, or follow me to take revenge for the Nine Heavens Demonic Dao Alliance? Choose for yourself." Some of the martial artists present looked a little angry. Some of them were similar to Tao Gongwang. They all joined the hidden devil lineage later. These people did not have much sense of belonging to the hidden devil lineage. Chu Xiu had used such a violent method to kill Tao Gongwang and threaten them. This made them feel very uncomfortable. They didn't believe that Lin Yi could really kill all of them. However, Chu Xiu paused and said, "Of course, it's not that I don't want to give you a chance. Revenge can't be forced. As long as you're not like that stupid worm Tao Gongwang, who is obviously protected by the Yinma clan, but still spouts nonsense and shakes the army's morale. Now, if you want to withdraw or leave, it's up to you. I'll report it to Senior Wuxia. From now on, you're no longer members of the Yinma clan." Chu Xiu's words were almost the same as what Wuxia had just said to him. It seemed to be a multiple-choice question, but in fact, he had no choice at all. The people who were still filled with righteous indignation instantly quieted down. Even if a few of them were moved, they held back when they saw that no one made a sound in the end. Just as Chu Xiu said, even the Yinma clan hated those ungrateful villains. If they left today, they would be branded with the image of an ungrateful, two-faced villain. They were already not tolerated by the righteous martial world. If they left the Yinma clan now, they could only go to the Bright Demon clan. But as long as their actions were spread out, even the Bright Demon clan would not accept them as disciples. The relationship between the sect and the disciples was mutual. The sect provided shelter and space for you to grow. In the future, they also hoped that you could protect the sect and other disciples in return. Now that this group of people had done such a thing, one could imagine what others would think of them. Moreover, they didn't think that even if they admitted that they were ungrateful and cowardly, the Yinma clan would let them go. With their strength, they had already seen many secrets of the Yinma clan, such as this secret land. If they chose to leave now, could the Yinma clan rest assured that they would keep the secret? Only the dead could keep secrets the best. Looking at the people around him, Chu Xiu said lightly, "What? No one wants to leave? If anyone dares to disobey orders next time, don't blame me for not giving you a chance." With that, Chu Xiu glanced at Tao Gongwang on the ground. Obviously, this was the end. And don't feel wronged. You joined the Yinma clan, but you didn't directly enter the Phaseless Demon sect, the Scarlet Demon sect, and other sects that belong to the Yinma clan. Although you have some freedom, you naturally won't get the treatment in the sect. There are many people like you. Senior Chu Wuji who just went out, he was born like you, but in the end, he became a martial Dao Grand Master, an expert of the Yinma clan. But think about it, how many of you have the confidence to reach the level of Senior Chu? Senior Chu could reach this stage without relying on anything else, but all of you can't. This time, Senior Wei gathered all of you to avenge the Nine Heavens Demonic Dao Alliance, not to send you to your deaths. This is a chance for you to display yourselves. Who can stand out and who can continue to remain where they are? There are people watching from above. With that said, the anger of the people present dissipated by more than half. What was left was thinking. Indeed, they had joined the Yinma clan for a long time. Although they had received protection, in reality, there were only a few of them who could stand out. Now that the opportunity had come, although there was a certain risk, there were also gains, especially to gain a good impression from Senior Wei. At this moment, Luo Sansong suddenly walked out with his ghost beheading knife and laughed loudly. "You're quite good at talking. I can't win against you, I only believe in the knife in my hand. Let's have a few moves. If you defeat me, no matter if you're a senior or a junior, you're the boss. If you lose, I'll go with you. After all, when I was being chased by those aristocratic families, it was the Yinma clan that saved me. I'm not an ungrateful old thing like Tao Gongwang." Although Chu Xiu had killed Tao Gongwang with one move just now, no one present could see Chu Xiu's true strength. This was because Chu Xiu's attack was too sudden. Although it was a head-on attack, everyone present, including Tao Gongwang, did not expect that Chu Xiu would publicly use a killer on such an occasion. Therefore, Chu Xiu's attack could be considered a sneak attack. Tao Gongwang did not even use half of his strength before he was crushed to death by Chu Xiu. Therefore, Tao Gongwang's death this time was somewhat unjust. Not only Luo Sansong, but the others also wanted to see Lin Ye's true strength in a head-on attack. Although they had already seen the information on the Longhu list and knew that Lin Yi was very strong, and even had the power to kill a martial Dao Grand Master, seeing was believing. After all, they had not seen it with their own eyes, so they were still somewhat skeptical. Chu Xiu waved his hand casually and said, "All right, make your move." Luo Sansong said in surprise, "Right here? If I destroy this hall and Senior Wei scolds me, it will have nothing to do with me." Chu Xiu shook his head and said, "Don't worry, it can be settled in a few moves. It won't be damaged." Luo Sansong snorted coldly and said, "Arrogant." Although he had to admit that Lin Yi was very famous in the Jianghu and was most likely very strong, he did not believe that Lin Yi would be able to defeat him in a few moves. Although he had challenged Lin Yi this time, he did not believe that Lin Yi could defeat him in a few moves. However, since Lin Yi had said so, he did not stand on ceremony. The ghost-headed beheading blade in Luo Sansong's hand surged with a blood-red light, and even his eyes turned blood-red in an instant. As the blade slashed down, the blood chi and killing intent surged, and a boundless ferocious aura bloomed. There was even a vague demon's howl in the blade momentum. It had to be said that Luo Sansong was not weak. He was definitely considered an expert among those at the unity of heaven and man realm. There were not many warriors of the same level who could block his blade. However, no matter how strong Luo Sansong was, his strength had not surpassed the scope of the unity of heaven and man realm. As for Chu Xiu, there were not many warriors of the same level as him who could be considered an opponent. His opponents had even become those martial Dao masters. As the blade momentum slashed down, Chu Xiu's expression did not change. However, there was a mysterious starlight flowing in his eyes. Given Chu Xiu's current mind power, when he used the heaven's sun gazing at air skill, a warrior of Luo Sansong's strength had no secrets to speak of in front of him. Chu Xiu could see every change in his moves clearly. Just as the saber aura was about to reach him, Chu Xiu punched out with a punch that contained boundless blood chi. Vast blood chi and killing intent swept out, bringing with it an indomitable and powerful might as it descended. However, there was a strange rhythm in the fist's momentum. As the fist grew closer and closer, Chu Xiu's selfless killing fist actually triggered the momentum of Luo Sansong's blade, causing the power of his blade to become unstable. It started to jump, and there was even a backlash. Luo Sansong had never seen such a strange situation. It was clearly his blade, but there was still a backfire. Was this his power or Lin Ye's? Why did the other party know his power better than he did? Luo Sansong no longer dared to continue with the power backfire. If he continued with the blade, it would hurt both him and Luo Sansong. Hence, at the critical moment, Luo Sansong directly withdrew his blade to defend himself. Chu Xiu's selfless killing fist blasted on Luo Sansong's blade and immediately made a loud sound. Luo Sansong's expression suddenly changed when he sensed the powerful force. He could not help but retreat rapidly. When his feet landed, a hole immediately appeared on the ground. After retreating dozens of steps, Luo Sansong had already retreated to the back of the hall. Chu Xiu performed a hand seal and displayed the demon Buddha of massacre. The evil blood Buddha held a ferocious blood blade and slashed down with the blade. The fierce blood chi soared into the sky. Luo Sansong's blade just now paled in comparison to Chu Xiu's demon Buddha of massacre. Seeing the demon Buddha of massacre's blade attack, Luo Sansong's eyes widened. The power shocked him so much that he was even ready to burn his blood essence to resist. In the end, Chu Xiu's blade did not completely fall. Instead, when it fell halfway, the chi and blood within it directly dissipated, and the demon Buddha of massacre also gradually disappeared. Luo Sansong put down his blade, no longer as arrogant as before. He cupped his hands at Chu Xiu and said with a bitter smile, "Greetings, Lord. I lost, and I admit my defeat." Chapter 598. Luo Sansong told Chu Xiu that he accepted his defeat wholeheartedly. This was not perfunctory, but the truth. He had already seen the power of the slaughter demon Buddha form. It was shockingly powerful. However, in the end, Chu Xiu was able to forcefully retract his attack as if it was a piece of cake. This was 10 or even 100 times more difficult than slashing out that attack. The way Luo Sansong addressed Chu Xiu as Lord convinced him. Although Chu Xiu was much younger than him, for a person like him, strength was the only rule. As long as Chu Xiu's strength was stronger than his, then everything would be fine. At this time, Zhao Qingping, who had been silent all this while, also stood up. He cupped his hands respectfully towards Chu Xiu and said, "Greetings, Lord." Zhao Qingping's thoughts were very simple. Wei Shia wanted to take revenge for the 9 Heavenly Mountain Demon Dao Alliance. In fact, he wanted to take revenge for his ancestors. He had no reason to object. Moreover, his bloodline had always been under Wei Shi's protection. Putting aside the fact that Lin Yi, who was very powerful, was leading them, he could accept it even if it was someone weaker. In any case, as long as it was Wei Shi who said it, he had to support it. When the people present saw that the strongest among them, Tao Gongwang, was killed, and Luo Sansong and Zhao Qingping had chosen to surrender, even if the others still had some ulterior motives, they respectfully lowered their heads and cupped their hands, saying, "Greetings, Lord." At this time, outside the main hall, Wei Shi and Chu Wuji had actually been watching. When they saw that Chu Xiu had subdued these people in such a short period of time, Chu Wuji could not help but praise, "This kid is really good." Xiao Ling and Lu Jin did not choose the wrong person. In fact, what our Yinma clan lacks the most are not experts, but people like this kid who can control the overall situation and really do things. Strength and ability were two different concepts. Some people had strength, but it did not mean that they were good in all aspects. Take Chu Wuji for example. Although he was born in the royal family, he was not good at controlling his subordinates and plotting. He could kill people, but he could not do anything else. Mei Qinglian was also such a person. However, she was the only one left in the Yin demon sect. Even if she wasn't good at these things, she still had to do it. As for people like Mr. Lu who were not as strong as Mei Qinglian and Chu Wuji, he was actually stronger than the two of them. As early as when Mr. Lu was in the unity of heaven and man realm, he had already led the people of the phaseless demon sect to make all sorts of arrangements in the dark, causing quite a lot of trouble in the Jianghu. He himself was also one of the higher-ups of the phaseless demon sect, and he had many subordinates under him. Wei Shi shook his head and said, "There are actually a lot of capable people in the Yinma clan. Unfortunately, the alliance is the alliance after all. There are too many unstable factors. In the past, when the 9 heavenly demons formed the Demon Dao Alliance, the reason why we were able to set off such a great power was because the 5 of us had quite a bit of strength under us. With them as the core, we were able to form a powerful alliance. Although the strength of the Hidden Devil clan was much stronger than before, there were also more schemes. Although the Phaseless Demon sect, the Scarlet Demon sect, and the other sects were loyal to the Yinma clan, they had to consider the interests of their own sects first. The other old fellows of the Yinma clan were even more excessive. They only thought about the interests of their own disciples and grand disciples, and brought out a large number of disciples. They only thought about the benefits, and when they encountered a problem, they would push the blame onto each other. You said that my Yin Mo clan does not lack experts, but what I, Yin Mo clan, lack is a supreme expert that can suppress everyone. Chu Wuji was silent for a while and said, "You mean, a supreme expert like Yi Xiaonan of the moon-worshipping cult?" Although the Bright Demon clan and the Yinma clan were still hostile, Chu Wuji had to admit that the entire Yinma clan could not find an expert who could match Yi Xiaonan. If there was no moon-worshipping cult to share the pressure on the surface, the Yinma clan would not be so relaxed now. Wei Shi shook his head and narrowed his eyes. He did not know where to look. Not enough. Far from enough. What my Yinma clan needs is not only an expert like Yi Xiaonan, but also an existence like Patriarch Dugu who can suppress the entire Jianghu. Only then can my Yinma clan completely turn over. Chu Wuji smiled bitterly and did not say anything. Since ancient times, how many people in the world could compare to Patriarch Dugu? Only a handful. Lu Chunyang of the Chunyang Dao sect was one, Bodhidharma of the Buddhist sect was one, Ning Xuanji of the true martial sect was also one, and there was Patriarch Dugu. Perhaps there were a few people who could compare to Patriarch Dugu, but all of them counted, there were no more than 10. Whether the Yinma clan could produce another expert like Patriarch Dugu, in Chu Wuji's opinion, the hope was slim, and he could not even see it in his generation. At this time, Chu Xiu was also thinking about how he should complete this task. Luo Sansong and the others had already been subdued. Although these guys were unruly, as long as they were obedient, they were still very strong. Therefore, in this regard, Chu Xiu did not need to worry. Moreover, people had desires, and this group of Yinma clan was the same. With Chu Xiu's identity and status, and Wuxia standing behind him, these people wanted to stand out, so they had to perform well in front of Chu Xiu. Therefore, the problem in front of Chu Xiu now was how to solve these forces on the list as soon as possible. On the list that Wuxia gave to Chu Xiu, those forces were generally not too strong. Some families might have hidden ancestors who had stepped into the martial Dao Grand Master realm, but Chu Xiu was not afraid. With his current strength, Chu Xiu was confident that he could fight with ordinary martial Dao Grand Masters, and even had a high chance of winning. With the 7-demon saber in hand, it was not difficult for Chu Xiu to kill some weaker martial Dao Grand Masters. Therefore, the real difficulty of this task was speed. Chu Xiu had to use the fastest speed to clean up this group of people. Once this group of people sensed that something was wrong, they would either scatter and hide, or they would attract some righteous path sex martial artists, increasing the difficulty for Chu Xiu. At the same time, it would also cause some unpredictable things. But these forces on the list were too scattered. Dozens of forces, most of them in eastern Qi, some in west Chu, and some in northern Yan. Chu Xiu would clean up a dozen forces one by one. It was estimated that after he got rid of a dozen forces, the other forces would notice and then respond. After thinking for a while, Chu Xiu almost had a general plan. He said to Zhao Qingping in a deep voice, "Zhao Qingping, you have stayed in the Yinma branch for a long time, so you must be very familiar with these people. Divide them according to their strength and what they are good at, and choose a leader for each of them. Limit the number of leaders to 10, and let Luo Sansong manage the strongest teams." Luo Sansong was just about to say that he was not good at managing these things when Chu Xiu directly said, "You don't have to care so much. When the time comes, when I ask you to kill someone, you just have to lead your subordinates to kill someone. Just listen to my commands. Don't tell me you can't do that." Hearing Chu Xiu's words, Luo Sansong had to spread out his hands and said, "I can do that." In fact, people like Luo Sansong were not suitable to manage these things. But Chu Xiu could not let Zhao Qingping manage everyone. But now Chu Xiu did not know these people well, so he could only do this for the time being. Zhao Qingping was not an idiot, and he did not have any objections to Chu Xiu's way of doing things. On the contrary, if the other party really trusted him so much and let him manage everyone, then either the other party was too stupid and naive, or there was some kind of conspiracy behind it. "Sir, which force should we choose first?" Zhao Qingping asked. Chu Xiu glanced at the information and said, "Choose the nearest one, the Wang family of Western Chu. But we don't need all of us to attack. You choose 20 people and attack with me. Remember, among these 20 people, there can't be any warriors in the unity of heaven and man realm. Only those in the 3-flower realm and the 5 cheese collecting origin realm." Hearing Chu Xiu say this, Zhao Qingping and Luo Sansong felt a little strange. In their opinion, given their strength, they should have just mobilized all of their forces to annihilate these small factions. It would have been a piece of cake for them to get rid of the other party. However, Chu Xiu had only mobilized a little bit of his strength. Why did he have to go to the trouble? But seeing Chu Xiu's confident look, they did not ask much. Whatever Chu Xiu said, they would do. The Wang family of Western Chu was actually very close to Guanxi, not far from the border between Guanxi and Western Chu. They were not weak, but they were not strong either. There were also a few warriors in the unity of heaven and man realm in the family. It was late at night, and the Wang family's hall was still brightly lit. During the day, the Wang family's old ancestor had just held his 188th birthday. At this time, the guests had already left. The Wang family's old ancestor called his family over and lectured the juniors as usual. In the Wang family's hall, over 100 direct descendants of the Wang family were either sitting or standing. They were all gathered around the Wang family's old ancestor. A unity of heaven and man realm martial artist had a lifespan of 200 years. Although the Wang family's old ancestor only had a dozen years left to live, he was still in good spirits and his face was glowing. Looking at the many descendants below, the Wang family's old ancestor stroked his white beard and said, "Ever since my Wang family's ancestor established the family, it has already been over 300 years. You need to know that it is easy to start a business but hard to maintain it. The reason my Wang family has its current power is because my ancestor followed the Sword Hut sword experts to destroy the Demonic Path Alliance 300 years ago. Because he bravely killed the enemy, he was recognized by the Sword Hut's experts and was bestowed with a cultivation technique, allowing us to establish the family. You also need to remember that it was not easy for my Wang family to have what it is today. Cultivate hard and don't be lazy. Only then can we live up to the legacy our ancestor left behind. At this time, a cold voice suddenly came from outside. Since your ancestor left behind so many legacies for your Wang family, then shouldn't your ancestor's karma be repaid by you? Chapter 599. In the middle of the night, a voice suddenly came from the inner residence of the Wang family. Everyone in the Wang family was shocked. The old ancestor of the Wang family stood up and shouted, "Who is it? Come out. Don't play tricks here." With a loud bang, the door of the Wang family's inner residence was blasted open. 2 disciples of the Wang family who were guarding the door fell to the ground. There were no injuries on their bodies, but they were already dead. Chu Xiu was dressed in black and wore an expressionless black iron mask. He carried the 7-demon saber on his back as he walked into the hall. Everyone gasped when they saw him. Not long after Xiaofan, the news of Lin Yi, the hero of diabolism, had spread throughout the Jianghu. Among the top 10 on the Longhu list, he was the only one who came from diabolism and was ranked in the top 10. He had even killed a martial arts master before. At this moment, Chu Xiu was dressed the same as he was in Xiaofan, so it was easy for the Wang family to recognize him. The old ancestor of the Wang family waved his hand and said with a solemn expression, "Lin Yi, the Wang family has no enmity with you." What do you mean by this? The patriarch of the Wang family really could not understand. He did not know Lin Yi at all. In fact, he had only heard about Lin Yi through hearsay. But now, Lin Yi had come knocking on his door. What was the meaning of this? Chu Xiu sneered, "No enmity. Old man Wang, you were just showing off the achievements of your Wang family's ancestor 300 years ago. Have you forgotten about it now? 300 years ago, on Jiuqin Mountain, your Wang family's ancestor followed an expert from the Sword Hut and killed 17 people from my diabolism. TSK, how powerful. However, a debt of blood must be paid in blood. 300 years have passed, and the interest should increase a little. In the past, your Wang family killed 17 people from my diabolism. Today, I will kill 170 people from your Wang family. The hatred of the past will be repaid 10-fold, 100-fold. It's fair and reasonable, isn't it?" Hearing this, the old ancestor of the Wang family's expression suddenly changed. He did not expect that his family would be targeted by the Yinma clan because of this matter. In the past, when the Wang family's ancestor participated in killing the 9 Heavenly Mountains Demon Dao Alliance, it was for a prosperous future, so he didn't care about the consequences at all. In the end, the 9 Heavens Demonic Dao Alliance was destroyed. A group of demonic Dao people could only hide in the dark and tremble. They could not think of taking revenge, nor did they dare to. Gradually, the Wang clan forgot about this matter. In fact, in this generation, the Wang clan didn't even realize that they still had this grudge. Usually, the Wang clan's ancestor would teach the younger generation a lesson and tell them about the clan's history. It was only to increase the cohesion of the clan leader. In the end, who would have thought that a period of history from 300 years ago would cause the Wang family to experience a calamity of death? The ancestor of the Wang family hurriedly said, "Let's not talk about the past for now. That was 300 years ago. Sir Lin, please understand. My Wang family has long stopped caring about the conflicts between the righteous and demonic lineages. Ever since I was born, my Wang family has never moved against the demonic lineage." Chu Xiu said indifferently, "The ancestors plant trees, and the descendants benefit from the shade. The karma of the ancestors naturally needs to be repaid by the descendants. Old man Wang, Didn't you say before that the Wang family was able to have its current family business because your ancestor exchanged the heads of the demonic Dao warriors? Now that you have enjoyed this family business for 300 years, it is time to return it. A middle-aged warrior who had reached the unity of heaven and man realms stepped forward and shouted coldly, "Ancestor, why are you wasting your breath on him? This Lin Yi is just one person. No matter how strong he is, can he be stronger than the entire Wang family? Everyone, attack together and subdue this little demon. Then, hand him over to the forgetful sword hut to receive the reward." Although this warrior from the Wang family had also reached the unity of heaven and man realm, it was clear that he had not seen the limits of the unity of heaven and man realm. He did not know that although they were both at the unity of heaven and man realm, the difference in strength was like heaven and earth. Furthermore, this kind of strength could not be made up for with numbers. "You shut up!" The Wang family's ancestor shouted angrily at the warrior. His entire body trembled in fear. The Wang family's ancestor was not afraid of Lin Yi. No matter how strong Lin Yi was, he was just one person, a junior of the demonic Dao. He was not an expert like Chu Wuji. What he was truly afraid of was Lin Ye's purpose for appearing here. The Yinma clan wanted to settle the enmity from 300 years ago. Even if they could hide from Lin Yi today, could they hide from the revenge of the entire Yinma clan? It was a colossus that could easily crush the entire Wang family. The Wang family's ancestor pleaded to Chu Xiu, "Young Master Lin, it is true that my Wang family's ancestor participated in that battle back then, but the mastermind of that battle was not my Wang family's ancestor. If the Yinma clan wants revenge, why bother making things difficult for us, a small family? Isn't it better to find the mastermind?" Chu Xiu shook his head and said, "Of course not. Whether it's the mastermind or the accomplice, the Yinma clan's enmity will be avenged sooner or later. It doesn't matter who we find first. You don't have to have any wishful thinking anymore." The Wang family's ancestor let out a long breath and said in a deep voice, "All right. I will avenge my ancestors. Young Master Lin, you don't have to do anything. I am willing to be captured, but young Master Lin, can you let the other disciples of my Wang family live? Leave a trace of my Wang family's bloodline." Chu Xiu said in an awe-inspiring tone, "Your Wang clan has enjoyed for so many years, it's time for you to pay the price. I said that I want to kill 170 people, so I want 170 lives. If human lives aren't enough, then even if I have to kill the dogs of your Wang clan and use their lives to make up for this number." "Lin Yi, you are going too far." The Wang family's ancestor roared angrily. Blood qi rose around his body and turned into a blood sword. He suddenly attacked Chu Xiu. He was so decisive that he burned his blood essence as if he was risking his life. At the same time, the Wang family's ancestor also roared at the other warriors of the Wang family, "Run! Run!" Although the Wang family's ancestor liked to show off in front of the younger generation and liked to put on face, as the head of the family, the Wang family's ancestor was qualified enough. As a senior of the Jianghu, he was several times older than Chu Xiu. However, he was careful and servile in front of Chu Xiu. He said all kinds of good words and was even willing to use his life in exchange for the survival of his family. The Wang family's ancestor was responsible enough. It was a pity that Chu Xiu came to kill people today. Even if he was responsible enough, he couldn't escape death. At the moment when the Wang family's ancestor attacked with his sword, a demon Buddha of slaughter appeared behind Chu Xiu. But at this time, the demon Buddha of slaughter was not holding a knife in its hand. Instead, it was forming a seal. In an instant, the Wang family's ancestor was shocked to find that the blood sword he had condensed was not under his control. With the movement of the demon Buddha of slaughter, the blood sword turned upside down. Under the Wang family's ancestor's disbelieving gaze, it directly pierced through his protective gang qi and stabbed into his chest. In front of Chu Xiu, who had the demon blood technique, any cultivation method that burned qi and blood would be restrained by Chu Xiu, unless the opponent had a strong physical strength to suppress their own qi and blood. Now that Chu Xiu had the identity of Lin Yi, it was not convenient for him to use a cultivation method like the demon blood technique. He could only use the power of the demon Buddha of slaughter to use the demon blood technique. Although the effect was the same, under the concealment of the demon Buddha of slaughter, ordinary people would not be able to see this change. Chu Xiu walked forward step by step. He stretched out his hand and pushed lightly, directly pushing the Wang family's ancestor to the ground. Now it was the Wang family's turn to tremble. In the hearts of the Wang family's disciples, the ancestor should be a godlike existence, able to block all enemies. But in front of Lin Yi, their ancestor could not withstand a single blow. Just now, the Wang family's ancestor had asked them to quickly escape. This group of Wang family's disciples did not care, but at this time, they were all screaming and running towards the other exit of the inner hall. But before they could escape, a long spear stained with demon chi shot out like a waterfall, smashing a group of people away. Then, another spear struck down a Wang family's unity of heaven and man realm cultivator. Its power was extraordinary. The owner of this demon spear was Zhao Qingping. Although this person usually looked very calm and taciturn, at this time, when he made a move, it was incomparably shocking. His spear technique was accurate and fierce, and its power was not weak. Want to escape? Leave your life behind first. Following Zhao Qingping's attack, the more than 20 people that he brought immediately attacked and began to chase the Wang family's cultivators. Although the Yinma clan had very few people, only more than 20 people, these people were the cream of the crop among those of the same level. It was not difficult to fight one against many. Moreover, there were also the two experts, Chu Xiu and Zhao Qingping. The Wang family was easily defeated by them. However, because they were few in number, some people from the Wang family still escaped. After cleaning up the battlefield, Zhao Qingping walked over with the demon spear in his hand and said in a deep voice, "My lord, we have killed all that can be killed, but there are still some people from the Wang family who escaped. Do we need to chase?" Chu Xiu waved his hand casually and said, "Don't care about them. After a while, we will attack the next clan. Remember, only bring more than 20 people will be enough." Zhao Qingping agreed respectfully. However, at this moment, he was also very puzzled. He did not know what Lin Yi was up to. If Lin Yi had brought all his people to attack the Wang family this time, Zhao Qingping could guarantee that no one from the Wang family would escape alive. In the end, more than 10 people from the Wang family had escaped. Even when Lin Yi had attacked just now, he had been very careless. It seemed like he had deliberately let these people go. However, Zhao Qingping had always been a cautious person. Although he had some doubts about Lin Yi's arrangements, he did not ask. He did not trust Chu Xiu. It could be said that he had never trusted Chu Xiu. It was only because the person in front of him was chosen by Senior Wuxia that he was so respectful to Chu Xiu. He believed that the person chosen by Senior Wuxia would not be an idiot. He would not deliberately let the tiger return to the mountain and cut the grass without removing the roots. Chapter 600. Chu Xiu did not just make a move against the Wang family in West Chu, he also made a move against many of the powers on the West Chu list. But the strange thing was that every time Chu Xiu used more than 20 people, he did not use his full strength. This also caused a portion of people to escape every time Chu Xiu made a move. Because a large number of people escaped, the news that the Yinma bloodline was preparing for revenge gradually spread throughout West Chu and even the martial arts world. Hearing this news, most people actually had an indifferent attitude. There were countless incidents of families being destroyed. The number of people killed by the Yinma bloodline was not as many as the number of people killed in the martial arts world. It was not a big deal. Furthermore, although there were many warriors who had participated in the battle to exterminate the 9 Heavenly Mountains demonic Dao alliance, there were only a few that still had their legacies after 300 years. Even if Chu Xiu's list contained dozens of factions, they were just a drop in the ocean when placed in the entire Jianghu. The Yinma bloodline had jumped out to cause a lot of trouble before. For example, in the God Weapon Conference, the spearhead was pointed at Hidden Sword Villa, one of the 5 major sword sections. Now they were just destroying some small forces to vent their anger. For the entire martial arts world, it was really not a big deal. Moreover, Wuxia was very accurate. He only attacked the small forces and not the big sections. Although it was a bit cowardly to pick the soft ones, it was also very safe. The big sects had already heard about this, but they had not really taken action. After all, it was not a matter that truly concerned their own interests. Moreover, the movement caused by the Ima clan was not too big. Even if it was a righteous sect like the Great Light Temple, their reaction speed was not considered fast. At this time, in a secret stronghold of the Ima bloodline in West Chu, Zhao Qingping brought more than 20 people to carry out the mission of exterminating the family. Chu Xiu was peacefully cultivating in the stronghold. This time, he did not even do it himself. Because the target was too weak. There was only one warrior in the Unity of Heaven realm in the entire family. Zhao Qingping could handle it alone. If he went, it would really be a massacre. When Zhao Qingping returned with his men and saw Chu Xiu's leisurely appearance, he finally couldn't help but ask, "My lord, you want us to do this, but when will we be able to clean up all the people on the list? Now if we destroy a family, we will lose half of their people. In the end, I'm afraid we won't even be able to clean up the West Chu powers. The powers on our target will already be on alert and preparing countermeasures." Chu Xiu raised his eyebrows and said, "Prepare countermeasures? What I am afraid of is not that they are prepared, but that they are not. There were dozens of forces on the list, and they were all located in West Chu, Northern Yan, and Eastern Qi. Even if they attacked with all their strength, and even if we could teleport, we wouldn't be able to kill so many people in such a short time. So, my plan is very simple. I want them to be prepared. Instead of cleaning them up one by one, it's better to let them gather together. This way, it'll be easier for us to take action and catch them all in one go, once and for all." When Zhao Qingping saw that Chu Xiu seemed to have a plan, he couldn't help but ask, "But my lord, those powers are scattered throughout the Jianghu, how could they listen to us?" Chu Xiu narrowed his eyes and said, "It's very simple. Just find someone who can make them listen to us. We've sent out so many people, and I believe that those people have already understood our strength. Moreover, they've spread the news and the atmosphere of panic. At this time, if there's a person with high prestige, it'll be very easy to gather everyone." Chu Xiu picked up the information that Wuxia gave him and pointed to the names on it. "You continue to bring people to act in West Chu. Only find the powers that are weaker than you, don't touch the powers that are stronger than you. Once you find something abnormal, immediately retreat. As for me, I will bring Luo Sansong and the others to Eastern Qi to find the person who can raise his arm and call for help, the master of Lin and County's Red Leaf Manor, maple dancing swordsman, Lu Jianhong." The person that Chu Xiu chose was one of the strongest powers on the list. Lu Jianhong himself had stepped into the realm of martial arts grandmaster a year ago. Red Leaf Manor was also the top power in Eastern Qi's Lin and County. 300 years ago, these people rose to power through the annihilation of the 9 Heavenly Mountains demonic Dao alliance. Until now, some of the powers were developing mediocre, while others were developing well. Red Leaf Manor was one of them. Lu Jianhong was the master of Red Leaf Manor. Whether it was himself or Red Leaf Manor, they had a good reputation in Eastern Qi's Jianghu. Lu Jianhong's nickname was the Maple Dancing Swordsman. The word hero was not something that an ordinary person could bear. Lu Jianhong had this nickname because he had helped those in danger and helped those in need in Eastern Qi's Jianghu for so many years. He had built up his reputation by eradicating many diabolism villains. Red Leaf Manor would also help those martial artists who were in trouble, regardless of remuneration. Hence, it had a good reputation in Eastern Qi's Jianghu. However, from Chu Xiu's point of view, whether it was Lu Jianhong or Red Leaf Manor, they were actually very similar to one person and one power, and that was Nie Renlong of the Morgue. Lu Jianhong was following Nie Renlong's old path, or rather, he had always been imitating Nie Renlong. Whether it was helping those in danger or eradicating those diabolism villains, or helping the martial artists who came from Red Leaf Manor, they were all utilitarian. However, from Chu Xiu's point of view, Lu Jianhong was a little stingy in doing things. He was far less generous than Nie Renlong. Nie Renlong also did things for the sake of reputation, but he dared to pay a huge price for this reputation. Hence, he had the reputation of the morgue in Jianghu. On the other hand, Lu Jianhong was too cautious. He wanted to help those in danger to accumulate his reputation, but what he helped were only small matters, and what he gave out alms were also small favors. Other people were not idiots. Very few people would be deeply grateful to Lu Jianhong just because of these small favors. The diabolism villains that Lu Jianhong eradicated were almost all those who were not as powerful as him, so the harm they caused was limited. Hence, the reputation that he gained from eradicating those people was also limited. In Chu Xiu's point of view, this kind of person was the kind of person who was extremely ambitious, but in reality, his own ability and means were limited. At this moment, in the Red Leaf Manor of Eastern Qis Lin and County, Lu Jianhong was sitting on the main seat in the main hall. Around him were more than 10 experts from the Lu family of Red Leaf Manor, and some of his descendants. Everyone had a solemn expression on their faces. Lu Jianhong was a middle-aged man with an extraordinary temperament. His appearance was square and masculine, and there was a long sword embellished with a red maple scabbard in his hand. However, at this moment, there was no expression on Lu Jianhong's face, and the atmosphere was very depressing. The Yinma clan was preparing to take revenge for the Nine Heavens 300 years ago. This matter had already spread from West Chu to Eastern Qi. The forces that were related to that matter were all feeling insecure. Lu Jianhong naturally knew how his Lu family's ancestors started their business, so the entire Red Leaf Manor was enveloped in a solemn atmosphere. At this moment, a middle-aged warrior who looked younger than Lu Jianhong could not help but stand up and say, "Big brother, we can't just sit here and wait for death. The Yinma clan wants to take revenge, but they don't dare to attack those big sections. They only dare to provoke us. This time, we have to let them see that our Red Leaf Manor is not a pushover. This time, the leader of the Yinma clan is only Lin Yi, who appeared on the Longhu list a few days ago. There are also more than 20 ordinary warriors, and there is not even a martial Dao master. Even if Lin Yi can fight against a martial Dao master, I don't believe that the others have the same ability. Let's set up a trap and wait for Lin Yi to bring his men over. We can kill them all in one fell swoop and dampen their spirits. This will also make our Red Leaf Manor famous in the pugilistic world." Lu Jianhong glanced at him and said, "You're thinking too simply. No matter how strong Lin Yi is, he is only a junior. It is naturally impossible for him to destroy our Red Leaf Manor alone. However, even if we block Lin Yi and kill him, what can we do? This matter is decided by the entire Yinma clan. If we kill Lin Yi, we can't guarantee that we will attract more experts from the Yinma clan. When that happens, how will our Red Leaf Manor defend against them?" The warrior was instantly speechless. If that was the case, they could neither defend nor kill them. Could it be that their Red Leaf Manor could only sit and wait for death? A young man sitting next to Lu Jianhong stood up and cupped his hands together. "Father, why don't we ask those big sects for help? Father, you are familiar with the people from the Hidden Sword Villa, the True Martial Arts Cult, and the Nansang Xiahou clan. Now that the people from the Devil Path are so overboard, can the Yinma clan defeat these top forces if you ask them for help?" Lu Jianhong sighed and said, "Haven't I thought about this? I even sent someone to pass the message to them previously, but it was like a stone thrown into the sea. Lin, you must remember that connections are connections, but you still have to rely on yourself at critical moments. This is especially so for the people from these big sections. Let alone the fact that I don't know people at the level of the clan leader. Even if it were the clan leader, they would have to discuss in detail about such a big matter and analyze the pros and cons before making a decision. When they come to a conclusion after their discussion, we don't know when it will happen. We can't just put our lives in the hands of others." The Lu clan members looked at each other. They couldn't fight them head-on, and they couldn't get external help either. How would the Lu clan survive this crisis? At this moment, a voice was heard from outside the door. "Why don't I give you an idea? Red Leaf Manor and Hero Lu have both fame and power. It's better to rely on yourself than to rely on others. In this environment where everyone is in danger, why don't you raise your arm and call for all the forces that participated in the 9 heavens 300 years ago? Gather them together, strengthen their power, and fight against the Yinma clan. When that time comes, not only will you be able to survive this crisis, even the top sects in the pugilistic world will not be able to ignore this power. Hero Lu, as the initiator of this alliance, you will have all the benefits of fame. Chapter 601. The idea mentioned by the voice that suddenly appeared was actually a very good suggestion. It even made Lu Jianhong feel like he was suddenly enlightened. Turning passivity into initiative and disaster into opportunity. If everything went well and nothing went wrong, the Red Leaf Villa might really be more powerful than the Morgue Villa. However, no one in the hall felt happy. Instead, everyone's hearts tightened. They immediately picked up their weapons and stood up. This was the Red Leaf Villa, the territory of the Lu family. In the end, someone broke through the Lu family's defense outside the villa and eavesdropped on their conversation. Everyone in the Lu family felt horrified just thinking about it. Stop pretending to be mysterious. Come out. Lu Jianhong snorted coldly. With a wave of his hand, the long sword in his hand was already unsheathed. It turned into a crimson sword aura that danced in the air. The sword aura actually evolved into a faintly discernible sword aura. Outside the door, Chu Xiu's fist landed. The murderous aura condensed and directly shattered the sword aura. Then, he stepped into the hall. Behind him, Luo Sansong led more than 200 elites of the Hidden Devil clan and broke through the door. They rushed into the Red Leaf Villa. In an instant, the entire Red Leaf Villa was filled with demonic aura. Seeing Chu Xiu's figure, Lu Jinhong's expression suddenly changed. Lin Yi. Why are you here? According to the information, Lin Yi should be in West Chu. Why did he suddenly appear in Eastern Qi? There were also the people behind him. There were nearly 23 warriors in the unity of heaven and man realm. The weakest among them was in the Three-Flower realm. Such a strong force was enough to attack a force like the Ba Mountain Sword Sect, let alone his Red Leaf Villa. Chu Xiu sneered and did not say anything. He formed a seal with his hand, and the demon Buddha of slaughter behind him was displayed. The crimson blood blade slashed forward with incomparable power. The pressure from the blade intent made Lu Jianhong feel a faint sense of heavy pressure. Although Lu Jianhong had just stepped into the Martial Dao Grandmaster realm not long ago, he was still a Martial Dao Grandmaster no matter what. Yet, he felt such a strong pressure from Chu Xiu. Was this not a joke? Fang Jianhong gritted his teeth, countless flowers rippling out from the long sword in his hand. They looked gorgeous, but they contained killing intent. Every flower contained a sliver of sword intent and stellar energy, and as the countless flowers fell from the sky, they were actually countless sword qi streaking across the sky. Seeing Fang Jianhong make his move, Chu Xiu couldn't help but reveal a cold smile. Fang Jianhong's strength was lower than he had imagined. Although Chu Xiu was currently in the unity of heaven and man realm, most of the people who were qualified to fight with him were Martial Dao Grandmasters. Moreover, among the Martial Dao Masters who had fought with Chu Xiu, other than Xiao Liandong, who had died in his hands, who was relatively weak, the rest were not weak. Even someone like Xin Yangzi was considered a powerhouse among the Martial Dao Masters. These relatively powerful Martial Dao Grandmasters all had a common characteristic. When they fought, they rarely used their Martial Dao Grandmaster's own advantages. Instead, they used their own strength. What was the most basic advantage of Martial Dao Grandmasters? It was to condense the real pellet of Martial Dao. They could quickly absorb the aura of heaven and earth and transform it into their own strength. So in theory, you could use the number of people to kill a martial artist in the unity of heaven and man realm. Even if it was a martial artist like Zhong Xian who had terrifying power, his internal force was not a bottomless pit. However, a real pellet state martial artist couldn't be killed by a large number of low-rank martial artists. This was the biggest advantage of Martial Dao Grandmasters, but this advantage was only for martial artists whose strength was far inferior to them. When two martial Dao grandmasters fought, this advantage naturally disappeared. Therefore, most martial Dao grandmasters still had to develop their own strength to make their combat power stronger. But when Lu Jianhong attacked, his explosive power was not even as strong as Chu Xiu. His sword momentum seemed to be endless, but in fact, he wanted to use his endless qi to exhaust Chu Xiu. This move was easy for other martial artists in the unity of heaven and man realm, but for Chu Xiu, it was simply wishful thinking. The slaughter demon Buddha slashed the seemingly magnificent flowers directly, and the boundless blood qi soared into the sky. Coupled with the demonic flame of the Buddha, it made this slash look extremely evil. When the sword and the saber collided, Lu Jianhong suddenly felt a strong attack, and his figure couldn't help but retreat. That slash even affected the power of his qi and blood, even making Lu Jianhong feel as if his qi and blood were boiling. With Lu Jianhong's reputation in the martial arts world of Eastern Qi, he had fought with many martial artists, but he had never really fought with the top 10 talents on the Longhu list. To him, who had already become a martial Dao Grand Master, how strong could someone in the unity of heaven and man realm be? The so-called descriptions on the Longhu list were a little too exaggerated. In the end, Lu Jianhong saw that the Longhu list was not exaggerating. The combat power of these young talents was even stronger than he had imagined. His figure retreated and Lu Jianhong let out a furious roar. His sword was like flowing fire, and the crimson sword intent pulsated with nirvanic flames. When the sword stabbed out, the sixth transformation precious weapon in Lu Jianhong's hand seemed to be unable to withstand it and became boiling hot, as if it was about to melt. Lu Jianhong wasn't considered a rogue cultivator. The patriarch of the Lu clan had risen to power during the Great War between the righteous and the demonic in the Nine Heavens mountain, but he didn't accumulate much. Therefore, Lu Jianhong's martial arts inheritance wasn't considered strong. Although he had become a martial Dao Grand Master now, his martial arts inheritance couldn't even compare to that of some ordinary disciples from large sects, let alone Chu Xiu. This sword technique didn't belong to him, but it was an incomplete technique that he had accidentally obtained from the secret box. It was extremely powerful, but because it was only an incomplete technique, there was a certain degree of risk of a backlash after using it. Lu Jianhong rarely used it unless it was a critical moment. He didn't expect that a martial Dao Grand Master like him would be forced to such an extent by a junior like Lin Yi with just one move. It was ridiculous and pathetic. Sensing the scorching flames and the power of nirvanic destruction in the sword, Chu Xiu couldn't help but raise his eyebrows. As expected, no matter how weak a martial Dao Grand Master was, Lin Yi must have some trump cards since he was able to reach such a level. The power of the sword was extraordinary, and the complete sword technique must have been very powerful in ancient times. Unfortunately, no matter how powerful a technique was, it was just a technique. The key was the person who used it. The killing devil Buddha form behind Chu Xiu dissipated. At the same time, Chu Xiu's hand was on the greedy blade behind him. The seven demon blade hurt both others and oneself. Initially, Chu Xiu didn't plan to use it easily. However, he needed to defeat Lu Jianhong and the rest as soon as possible. Therefore, Chu Xiu could only use the seven demon blade as a killer move. The seven demon blade targeted a person's 7 emotions and 6 desires. With Chu Xiu's current ability, no matter which blade he used, Chu Xiu could only use one slash. Therefore, he had to choose a slash that could completely target Lu Jianhong's inner emotions. Otherwise, he would waste an opportunity. Greed, anger, obsession, hate, love, evil, and desire. Among the 7 emotions, greed was something most people couldn't avoid. Some people were greedy for money, some were lustful, and some were greedy for power. Lu Jianhong was a utilitarian. He couldn't escape the greed. The moment the greedy blade was unsheathed, an evil demonic aura roared out and devoured all energy, triggering Lu Jianhong's inner demons. In an instant, Lu Jianhong's eyes were slightly red. The greed in his heart was reflected on his face, distorting his originally square face into a hideous and terrifying look. Lu Jianhong's greed was very deep, even deeper than Chu Xiu imagined. He was a greedy person. He was greedy for fame, status, and power. There was a morgue in the north that rose from the wilderness. Nie Renlong gathered all the experts in the world to form a morgue, which was why the morgue that was famous in the pugilistic world was formed. Lu Jianhong believed that he was not inferior to Nie Renlong. He had always wanted to turn the Red Leaf Villa into a morgue for Eastern Qi. He had planned for this for countless years. Now that he had stepped into the martial arts master realm, he had come up with countless strategies and plans for this. Therefore, he couldn't die here today. He didn't want to die here either. As the greedy blade slashed down, the earth energy around Lu Jianhong changed a little. Originally, his earth energy was crimson in color. Although Chu Xiu couldn't tell what kind of earth energy it was, Chu Xiu was sure that it was definitely not the earth energy of the demonic path. Now, the earth energy around Lu Jianhong had turned black and red, emitting an evil aura. This was a sign that he had turned into a demon. The greedy blade slashed down and devoured everything. Lu Jianhong's stellar energy was engulfed by the saber. The greedy saber, which carried the nirvanic flames, did not completely engulf Lu Jianhong. However, as the greedy saber slashed down, endless demonic flames engulfed it. Even the distorted stellar energy around Lu Jianhong's body involuntarily flowed into the greedy saber, helping it suppress his sword move. The devil chi scattered and the sword intent scattered. The long sword in Lu Jianhong's hand shattered. He spat out a mouthful of blood and was sent flying, crashing into a row of tables and chairs behind him. Chu Xiu's eyes were also slightly red. However, he used his powerful mental energy to suppress the backlash of the greedy blade and casually sheathed the greedy blade. The seven demon blade was inspired by the supreme saber technique of the ancient times, the seven limits. Although it couldn't activate the power of the seven limits, the power of the seven emotions was equally terrifying. As long as one wasn't a saint with a pure heart and few desires, one would definitely be affected by the seven demon blade when facing it. The only difference was the degree of the influence. Lu Jianhong's nickname was the Maple Dancing Swordsman. No one knew if the word hero was given to him by someone or if he had gotten someone to spread it around. However, Lu Jianhong's true colors were revealed today under the greedy blade. He might be a hero, but he was a very greedy hero. Chapter 602. Lu Jianhong clutched his throbbing chest and looked at Chu Xiu in despair. He had just stepped into the martial Dao Grandmaster realm for a year and was full of ambition. He was planning how to turn Red Leaf Manor into a community of Eastern Qi so that his Red Leaf Manor could rise and become one of the major sects in the pugilistic world. In the end, who would have thought that all of this would be shattered today? Lu Jianhong even resented his ancestor, whom he had never met, for participating in the annihilation of the Nine Heavens demonic Dao alliance. With his strength and potential, even without the support of his ancestor, he could still cultivate to the martial Dao Grandmaster realm. Seeing that Chu Xiu was walking towards him, Lu Jianhong's sword was already broken. However, he was a martial Dao Grandmaster after all, so he still had the strength to fight. As a martial artist, most people had some backbone. In the face of a desperate situation, those who would kneel and beg for mercy were the minority. Most people would still fight to the death. Just as Lu Jianhong was prepared to fight to the death, Chu Xiu stopped in front of him and said calmly, "Hero Lu, you've worked hard for so many years to achieve your current strength and status. Don't you think it's a pity to die just like that?" Lu Jianhong heard Chu Xiu's words. He struggled to stand up and said, "What do you want?" If Lin Yi only wanted to kill him for revenge, there would be no need for him to say so much. He could just stab him again. However, from what Lin Yi said, could there be a turning point in this matter? Chu Xiu said, "I've already told Hero Lu what I'm thinking. Hero Lu, you have both reputation and strength. You can gather other forces that are about to be retaliated against by the Hidden Devil clan and form an alliance to resist them together." Lu Jianhong's voice trembled slightly. "What exactly do you want?" Lin Ye's idea was great, and it could even be said to be the best way to break out of this situation. However, why did he say it himself? Which side was he on? Lu Jianhong had a guess, but he did not dare to say it out loud. Chu Xiu lowered his head and stared at Lu Jianhong. He said in a low voice, "What? With Hero Lu's wisdom and methods, could it be that you still can't guess it? The factions of power who participated in the battle in Nine Heaven Mountain are scattered all over the world of martial artists. It'll take too much effort to search for them one by one, and it'll also waste too much time. Why don't we gather them all together? It'll be easier to kill them that way, don't you think?" "Impossible." Lu Jianhong roared angrily, "Even if you kill me, I won't become a lackey of the demonic path and do such despicable and shameless things. You're setting me up for eternal damnation and making me, Lu Jianhong, despised by the entire Jianghu." Lu Jianhong could imagine how things would turn out if he agreed to Lin Ye's request. He, a hero who had quite a reputation in Eastern Qi, would lose all his standing and reputation, and be cast aside by the entire Jianghu. He had become a lackey of the Devil Path and helped the Yinma clan kill so many of his colleagues. From now on, even if he didn't die, there would be no place for him in Jianghu. Lu Jianhong was greedy and utilitarian, but he still had a bottom line. There were dozens of factions. Even if they only sent their elites over, there would still be more than 1,000 people. By doing this, it was equivalent to helping Lin Yi kill more than 1,000 people. He might not have killed so many people in his entire life. Chu Xiu squinted his eyes and looked at Lu Jianhong. This hero Lu was actually quite a failure as a person. He wasn't a real hero, but he wasn't a hypocrite either. If Nie Renlong was in Nie Renlong's shoes, he would definitely choose the other person's death over his own. However, it was obvious that Lu Jianhong still couldn't overcome the obstacle in his heart. Chu Xiu looked at Lu Jianhong, shook his head, and sighed. "Manner Master Lu, you're still a little too stubborn. It's better to be selfish. What can you get by saving those people's lives? Do you think that you can gain a reputation for being a hero by sacrificing yourself? Stop dreaming, you won't be able to get anything." Chu Xiu shouted the last sentence. At the same time, the great technique of destroying heaven and destroying earth and soul transfer and the rotation of inner demons were circulating silently. His subtle mental strength didn't forcibly control Lu Jianhong's thoughts, but instead created an atmosphere to guide Lu Jianhong's thoughts. "This time, no one knows the reason why I attacked your Red Leaf Manor. If you don't agree and I kill you, others will only think that it's a sneak attack by the Devil Path. If you die, it'll be in vain. If you die, it'll be in vain. There will even be people who rejoice in your misfortune and think that your Red Leaf Manor has finally fallen because of the benefits from 300 years ago. Manor Master Lu, never underestimate the evil intentions of some people in the Jianghu. If you die and the Red Leaf Manor is destroyed, I dare say that there will be more people who will applaud than sympathize with your Red Leaf Manor." Chu Xiu's words hit the nail on the head. Lu Jianhong wasn't a newcomer in the Jianghu. Of course, he knew that the majority of people in the Jianghu weren't chivalrous people who helped those in need, nor were they demons who killed people like flies. Instead, they were hypocrites who appeared sanctimonious on the surface, but were secretly thieves and prostitutes, as well as those despicable people who couldn't bear to see others do well. Chu Xiu whispered in Lu Jianhong's ear, "Manor Master Lu, is the righteous path and the devil path really that important? If you want to turn the Red Leaf Manor into a memorial hall, if you want fame, join the devil path. You will also have fame. Fame is earned through strength, not through scheming." Lu Jianhong glanced at Chu Xiu and whispered in a hoarse voice, "If you join the devil path, you won't gain fame, but notoriety." Chu Xiu waved his hand and snorted coldly, "Notoriety? As long as you're strong enough, regardless of whether you're a righteous or a devil, you'll gain fame." Chu Xiu pointed to the other side. Under the attack of Luo Sansong and the others, the rest of the Lu clan had already been subdued. In front of more than 200 elites of the Devil Path, they had no chance to fight back at all. This was also because Chu Xiu had previously instructed Luo Sansong not to kill anyone. Otherwise, this group of people would have been slaughtered long ago. "Manor Master Lu, take a good look. These are all members of the Lu clan. The blood of the Lu clan flows in their bodies. Is that your younger brother? Manor Master Lu, you have a good younger brother. Although he isn't much younger than you, he has listened to you since he was young. He has never wanted to fight with you for the position of the clan master. Do you have the heart to let such a close relative die? That young man is your son, right? Your son is quite talented. He has just reached the inner invulnerability state at the age of 20. In time, with proper training, he might have the opportunity to be ranked on the Longhu list. You want to carry forward the Red Leaf Villa. Isn't it for your son and your inheritance? Now that your son is dead, even if Manor Master Lu obtains the fame, who will you leave it to? Chu Xiu pointed to the group of Lu clan members who looked terrified and said to Lu Jianhong in a low voice, Manor Master Lu, you only have one chance. Think carefully before you speak. Do you want to work for me, for the Yinma clan? Do you want others to bleed and others to cry, or do you want your own family to bleed and cry? The choice is in your hands. Look at these people. They are all your close relatives. If you say no, I'll send you to reunite with them in hell. Don't worry, I'll be very swift. Although some people like to smear the reputation of the devil path, saying that we are cruel and enjoy torturing people. In fact, those who like to torture people are perverts, not people of the devil path. Maple dancing swordsman, Manor Master Lu, you have sacrificed a lot for the word chivalrous. But if you think about it carefully, it's not bad to change the word chivalrous to devil, isn't it? Lu Jinhong's face revealed a twisted expression of struggle. His eyes were red and the crimson gang qi around his body started to become unstable. It even emitted some black and red colors. This was the sign that he had already become a devil. Chu Xiu did not use the greedy blade, but his mental energy unknowingly dug out the deepest evil in Lu Jinhong's heart. This was an inner demon, a demon that belonged to Lu Jianhong himself. After a while, the aura on Lu Jinhong's body stabilized. He looked at Chu Xiu with an indescribable expression in his crimson eyes. He asked in a hoarse voice, Are you a demon? Chu Xiu shook his head and said, I'm a demon, not a ghost. It's just that you have a guilty conscience. Manor Master Lu, you've already made your choice, haven't you? Lu Jinhong's face revealed a dejected expression. He looked at his family members. Seeing that they could not hear him, he then said to Chu Xiu in a low voice, Have you given me a choice? There's no choice at all. Alright, I promise you that I'll help you set up a trap to lure the others here. But I want to fake my death. After this is done, pretend to kill me. From then on, there will be no Lu Jianhong in the pugilistic world. Chu Xiu raised his eyebrows and said, Why do you have to do this? If you die, no one will scold you anymore. Lu Jianhong said expressionlessly, If I die, they will only scold me for a while. They won't scold me forever. I just don't want my ancestors to be too embarrassed. Chu Xiu raised his eyebrows and said, A wise man submits to circumstances. Manor Master Lu's small request, of course, I will fulfill it. Of course, the prerequisite is that you put on a good show. If you mess it up, the consequences are something that no one wants to see. Lu Jianhong said expressionlessly, Don't worry. Now the lives of my entire family are in your hands. Do I still have a way out? Chu Xiu walked over and patted Lu Jinhong's shoulder. He said, Manor Master Lu, you don't have to be so pessimistic. Even if the Red Leaf Manor moves to a secret place, it will still be the Red Leaf Manor. If you join the Yinma clan, there might be more ways out. Actually, Manor Master Lu, you should feel lucky, because you have the right to choose. Among all the forces on the list, although your Red Leaf Manor is not the strongest, your reputation is the greatest. That's why I've chosen you as my target. Think about the others. From the moment you agreed, their fates were already decided. They don't even have a choice. Chapter 603. Lu Jianhong had fallen into the demonic path. No matter if he was sincere or helpless, this was a path of no return. He had no other choice. The Lu clan members in the Red Leaf Manor were not allowed to leave the manor before the plan was completed. Hence, Chu Xiu only left a few people to guard the place. He then chose another deserted place in eastern Qi as the location for the alliance. He also found a few people from the Hidden Devil clan who were the best at formations and set up a huge formation, a huge killing formation. At the same time, Lu Jianhong also spread the news in his own name. He gathered all the factions that were related to the Battle of the Nine Heaven Demonic Dao Alliance to gather in eastern Qi to discuss countermeasures. Before Lu Jianhong sent them a message, this group of people were all in a state of panic. They looked for connections and thought of countermeasures, but none of them had any good ideas to stop the Hidden Devil clan. But now, Lu Jianhong's appearance gave them new hope. Their individual factions and connections were indeed unable to stop the Hidden Devil clan. However, now that so many factions had joined forces, it was impossible for Lin Ye's subordinates to kill over 1,000 of them with just over 20 people. It was more like a counterattack. And most importantly, with such a huge commotion, they didn't believe that the large sects wouldn't make a move. Even if their alliance joined forces, they would be able to match some of the weaker factions in the martial world, such as the Azure Water Sword sect and the Ba Mountain Sword sect. Hence, no matter what their intentions were, after receiving Lu Jianhong's news, almost no one refused. They all sent their elites to eastern Qi to meet up with Lu Jianhong. This group of people created such a huge commotion that the various large sects heard some news. But some started to take action, while some didn't. Those who took action were mostly interested in the alliance formed by Lu Jianhong. Hence, they were prepared to send people to contact them. As for those who didn't take action, they were either uninterested or didn't care at all. At this moment, in a small courtyard of the Great Light Temple's Wang Nian Zen Hall, 2 monks dressed in white monk robes were sitting in front of a Bodhi tree and playing chess. One of them was a middle-aged monk with a fierce appearance. He was the first seat of the Vajra institution, Venerable Skunda, Su Yan. On the other hand, the monk opposite him looked very strange. At first glance, he looked very young. He seemed to be in his 20s, but upon closer inspection, he seemed to be in his 30s or 40s. If you looked into his eyes, you would feel a strange sense of vicissitudes. You would even suspect that he was hundreds of years old. This strange monk was the head of the 3 great meditation halls of the Great Radiance Temple, the first seat of the Raging Thought Meditation Hall, the 9 Wonders Dragon Tree, Su Yun. He was recognized by the outside world as a powerful being who was second only to the abbot, Reverend Sakya Su Ci. However, within the Great Radiance Temple, many people felt that Su Yun was even scarier than the abbot, Su Ci. Because this is a person you can't see through at all. Outsiders could not see through Su Yun, and the people from the Temple of Great Light could not see through Su Yun either. Even Su Yun's teachers, the Buddhist masters from the previous generation of the Temple of Great Light, could not see through Su Yun either. In the end, Su Yun, who was much more famous than Su Ci, became the first seat of the Zen Hall of Delusion, while Su Ci became the abbot. However, within the Temple of Great Light, Su Yun's status was not any lower than Su Ci's. At the very least, Su Yan's attitude towards Su Ci was almost as respectful as the abbot. At this moment, Su Yun casually put down a chess piece and slaughtered Su Yan's entire dragon. Su Yan's hand moved slightly, but he eventually put down the chess piece and smiled bitterly. "Senior brother Su Yun, I've lost." Su Yun put away the chessboard and said calmly, "Su Yan, when you play chess, you always feel a little uneasy. Did something happen? If there was nothing, you wouldn't have come looking for me in a hurry to play chess." Su Yan smiled bitterly, "It's nothing much. It's just that there have been a lot of things happening in the underworld recently. Some of them are things that our Temple of Great Light has to deal with, but there are also some that we don't know if we should or not. Right now, the abbot is in seclusion, so I can only ask you, senior brother Su Yun." Su Yun said slowly, "Oh? What is it?" Su Yan organized his words and told Su Yun about the recent happenings of the Hidden Devil lineage. Right now, that Eastern Qi's Red Leaf Manor's Lu Jianhong is inviting all the small factions that participated in the battle in the 9 Heaven Mountain back then to join the Eastern Qi Alliance. He has made quite a big fuss. If this alliance is formed by him, it will be even stronger than factions like the Azure Water Sword Sect or the Ba Mountain Sword Sect, which are ranked in the underworld. After Su Yun heard this, he nodded and said, if that is the case, this Lu Jianhong is really someone. He isn't like the other factions that are waiting for their deaths. Instead, he has taken the initiative. If this crisis is resolved, he can take advantage of the situation and become the leader of this alliance. His influence will not lose out to the Northern Yen Memorial Manor. Before this person has been carefully lying low. This time, he has shocked the world with a single brilliant feat and made such a big move. He is not a simple person. Su Yan said, that is why I am also hesitating. Since that Lu Jianhong has already made a move, should our Great Light Temple still send someone over? Although that Lin Yi is strong and even heavily injured Su Xing in the minor mortal heaven, when faced with such a powerful alliance, even if he is a martial arts grandmaster, he will not be able to stop it. Su Yun waved his hand and said, of course we have to go. If this matter is not handled well, it might even cause an intense conflict between the orthodox and demonic sections. Our Great Light Temple cannot be absent. Su Yan said in surprise, it can't be. The hidden devil lineage has a sense of propriety this time. They have never acted against the major factions. They have only acted against the minor factions and the descendants of some itinerant cultivators. Could it be that they want to start a war between the orthodox and demonic sects? Su Yun pointed to the sky and said, sometimes, we have to look further. Now that the demonic sects are reviving, a slight change will affect the whole. There are undoubtedly more things that we have to consider. The alliance of the demonic sects in the Nine Heaven Mountain has already been destroyed for 300 years. In the end, the hidden devil lineage is only preparing to take revenge now. If the demonic sects have not recovered, do you think they will resurface? This time, Lu Jianhong has formed an alliance to resist the hidden devil lineage's revenge. According to what you said, the hidden devil lineage only has Lin Yi and over 20 elites. It is possible to destroy some minor factions, but against such a powerful alliance, it is no different from striking a rock with an egg. He will definitely lose. The best possibility is that Lin Yi knows the difficulty and retreats. Anyway, he has already destroyed a few factions. It can be considered that he has taken revenge and settled the enmity for now. The worst outcome is that Lin Yi is severely injured or killed. The hidden devil lineage will be completely enraged and will send even more experts to destroy Lu Jianhong's alliance. At that time, how can our orthodox sect stand by and do nothing? We will still have to interfere. Do you think this will cause a conflict between the orthodox and demonic sects? Su Yan wiped the sweat off his forehead. He really had not thought so far ahead. Su Yan already knew about this information, but after studying it for so long, he still had no clue. On the other hand, Su Yun only heard it once and thought of the pros and cons. This was the difference between them. In the entire Great Light Temple, in terms of the overall situation, apart from Su Jing, who specialized in karma and reincarnation in the Karma Zen Hall, Su Yun was the strongest. Of course, to be precise, Su Yun was strong in all aspects. Su Yan composed himself and said, then, senior brother Su Yun, which side should we stand on? Do we need to help Lu Jianhong kill those demonic sects? Su Yun waved his hand indifferently and said, it doesn't matter whether we kill them or not. As long as the people of the Great Light Temple go there and make our stance clear, it will be fine. At that time, as long as Lin Yi is not an idiot, he will naturally retreat. The hidden devil lineage is in a state of disunity. Apart from Wei Shuya and a few other old demons, as well as the new generation disciples like Lin Yi, the rest cannot withstand a single blow and are far from being a threat. Don't clash with them for now, and there is no need to care about them. Right now, both the Great Light Temple and the Celestial Master Abode have their eyes on the moon-worshipping cult. Yi Xiaonan is the true enemy. Su Yan said hesitantly, senior brother, could it be that you cannot defeat the Yi Xiaonan? In Su Yan's mind, senior brother Su Yun's strength was unfathomable, even more so than Fang Zhang. Although Su Yan did not cultivate his spirit with true fire and could not figure out the strength of this realm, he still thought that Su Yun was very strong, terrifyingly strong. Previously, when the Blue Dragon Society's Butiannan came looking for trouble because the Northern Yan's heavenly sin branch had been destroyed, it was Su Yun who had repelled him. It had taken him less than 10 moves. To outsiders, Su Yun was only a few ranks higher than Butiannan on the excellence list. However, to Su Yan, the difference in strength between the two was huge. Although the moon-worshipping cult master Yi Shaonan was famous, Su Yan did not think that Su Yun was weaker than Yi Shaonan. Su Yun extended a hand at Su Yan, spread his fingers, and shook them. 50-50. Su Yan said hesitantly. Su Yun shook his head. 5 moves. I am confident that I can block 5 moves from Yi Shaonan without being defeated or at a disadvantage. After 5 moves, success or failure will be determined by the heavens. This is my estimation before Yi Shaonan mastered the Heaven-Mending Heart Sutra. Now that he has mastered it, everything is uncertain. Su Yan sucked in a breath of cold air when he heard this. He never thought that Su Yan's evaluation of Yi Shaonan would reach such a level. Could it be that another great demon like Dugu Weiwa would appear in the Jianghu? Su Yan shook his head and cast this terrifying thought aside. He asked, Senior brother Su Yun, then who should my great light temple send? Actually, the most suitable person to represent my great light temple is Zhong Xian. However, he was defeated by Chu Xiu and is currently cultivating in seclusion. It is not good for me to interrupt his cultivation. Su Yun casually waved his hand and said, let Su Xing go. Coincidentally, there is nothing going on in the Dharma court recently. He is very free. Su Yan said hesitantly, let junior brother Su Xing go. However, he was heavily injured by Lin Ye's 7-demon saber in the minor mortal sky. In addition to his fiery temper, I am afraid that he will fight with Lin Yi. Su Yun said with an indifferent expression, the righteous path does not want to have a conflict with the hidden devil line now. However, this does not mean that we are afraid of the hidden devil line. If that Lin Yi is smart, he will know when to retreat. The two sides will not even meet. On the other hand, if he insists on going, then it will be a good lesson for the hidden devil line. We do not care if they stay underground. If they dare to show themselves, then we will beat them down again. Chapter 604. Lu Jianhong arranged for the alliance to be in Red Maple Valley, which was not far from Red Leaf Manor. Now that Red Leaf Manor was under the control of Chu Xiu's men, they naturally could not choose to be there. Moreover, the terrain of Red Leaf Manor was not very convenient. Eastern Cheese Lin and County produced maple trees. The reason why Red Leaf Manor was named so was that it was built in a maple forest. Every autumn, the entire manor would be wrapped in red leaves. It was the same for Red Maple Valley. It was full of maple trees. Now that it was autumn, the leaves of these maple trees were red and shiny. For some reason, there was a hint of evil blood color. However, no one was paying attention to this scene at the moment. There were thousands of warriors in Red Maple Valley, and they were all elites from various forces. As the initiator, Lu Jianhong welcomed them with a smile at the entrance of the valley. However, the others did not realize that Lu Jianhong's smile contained a hint of helplessness and coldness. At this moment, a middle-aged warrior led a group of disciples into Red Maple Valley. He even greeted Lu Jianhong, who was at the entrance of the valley. Brother Lu, we haven't seen each other for many years. I didn't expect you to have stepped into the martial Dao Grandmaster realm. This is really a cause for celebration. This time, with you leading the alliance, we will definitely catch all the villains of the Demon Dao in one fell swoop. Lu Jianhong smiled and said, Clan Master Son, you flatter me. If I wasn't forced, I wouldn't want to stand out and become enemies with the entire Hidden Devil clan. After all, they are a huge force. Clan Master Sun snorted and said, what Hidden Devil clan? They are just a bunch of rats that bully the weak and fear the strong. Back then, it was not only our ancestors who participated in the annihilation of the Demon Dao Alliance in Nine Heaven Mountain. There was also the Great Light Temple and Sword King City. How are they going to take revenge on those people? They only know how to pick on the weak. After complaining for a while, Clan Master Sun walked into the valley. At this moment, a few more groups of warriors came. Among them, there were warriors from Eastern Qi who knew Lu Jianhong. After chatting for a while, someone asked curiously, "Clan Master Lu, where are your younger brother Lu Jianyuan and your son? Why don't I see them?" Lu Jianhong revealed an unnatural smile and said, "They're all guarding the Red Leaf Manor. I'm also afraid of being ambushed by the Yinma clan, so I've placed a large portion of my forces to guard the manor." When the others heard what Lu Jianhong said, they did not suspect anything. Moreover, some people noticed that the disciples of the Red Leaves Manor seemed to be much stronger than before. Moreover, most of them were unfamiliar faces. However, no one asked about this. If they asked about this matter, it would seem like they couldn't bear to see the Red Leaf Manor doing well, and couldn't bear to see the Red Leaf Manor becoming stronger. Of course, there were quite a few people who had this kind of mentality. It was true that the Red Leaf Manor was strong, but among so many forces, there were still some forces that were not weaker than the Red Leaf Manor. When Lu Jianhong's news came out, they began to regret it. Why didn't they think of such a good idea? Not only could they get through the crisis, but they could also accumulate fame and eventually become the leader of the alliance. The benefits were simply unimaginable. It was a pity that this kind of thing was only useful to the initiator. If they still used this method, they would be making a fool of themselves by imitating others. Moreover, the enemy was right in front of them. If they were to fight amongst themselves over such a matter, they would be too stupid. However, although they wouldn't fight amongst themselves, they were still very interested in the distribution of power and benefits during the alliance. Feeling that most of the people had arrived, Lu Jianhong directly walked up to the highest platform in the center of the Red Maple Valley. He was immediately surrounded by warriors who had rushed over from various places. Looking at the people around him, Lu Jianhong said in a deep voice, "Everyone, the Yinma clan has already risen again. They want to take revenge for the enmity from 300 years ago. Many of the forces that were born in the same place as us have already fallen into the hands of the Yinma clan. Now that I've gathered everyone here, I want to gather everyone's strength to get through this calamity together. 300 years ago, we joined forces to kill the Nine Heaven Mountain Demon Alliance. Now, we can also join forces to get through this calamity. I know that everyone must have used your connections to seek help from those large sections. However, it's better to rely on ourselves than to rely on others. Instead of waiting for others to save us, it's better for us to save ourselves." As soon as he finished speaking, someone below immediately shouted, "Well said." However, before Lu Jianhong could echo, an old man below stood up and said calmly, "Manor Master Lu is right. It's better to rely on ourselves than to rely on others. Others may not say anything, but I, an old man, am in favor of this alliance." Seeing that the old man had stepped forward, the people around him immediately made way for him, their eyes filled with respect. Among the group of people from 300 years ago, there were very few who could step into the martial Dao Grandmaster realm. Lu Jianhong was the only one who was in his prime. However, there were other old martial Dao Grandmasters too. The current patriarch of the northern Yan-Yang clan fort, Yang Guiyuan, was one of them. However, this Yang clan patriarch was really old. He had not appeared in the pugilistic world for more than 10 years. To be precise, even in the Yang clan fort, not many disciples had seen him. The Yang clan patriarch had always been in closed-door training, but it was not for cultivation. Instead, he wanted to preserve his limited lifespan by nourishing his qi and blood. If not for the fact that this matter concerned the safety of the Yang clan fort, the Yang clan patriarch would definitely not show up. Among the people present, in terms of strength, Lu Jianhong, who was in his prime, was definitely the strongest. However, in terms of experience, no one present could compare to the Yang clan patriarch. Everyone had to address him as senior. At this moment, Lu Jianhong also cupped his hands at the Yang clan patriarch and said, "Thank you for your kindness, Senior Yang." Just as Lu Jianhong was about to continue speaking, the Yang clan patriarch suddenly waved his hand and said, "Hold on, Manor Master Lu. Can you give me some time to answer some of my questions?" Lu Jianhong frowned slightly, then said, "Senior Yang, please speak." The Yang clan patriarch said slowly, "Manor Master Lu, it's a good thing that you want to form an alliance to resist the Hidden Devil clan. However, an alliance cannot be formed with just a few words. There are many things that need to be discussed. For example, since this is an alliance, there naturally needs to be an alliance leader. The alliance leader needs to deploy forces and be fair. Moreover, the alliance cannot be decided by the alliance leader alone. It also needs other people to help deploy and make some decisions, isn't that right?" As soon as the Yang clan patriarch finished speaking, there was a sudden silence. Everyone was experienced in the pugilistic world, and there were no fools among them. They easily understood the unspoken meaning in the Yang clan patriarch's words. He wanted to distribute power. It was true that the alliance was proposed by Lu Jianhong. It was fine if he wanted to be the alliance leader, but this alliance was not something that he could decide alone. With the Yang clan patriarch status, if he joined the alliance, would he still listen to the orders of a junior like him? He would definitely have to share some of the power. What about the other people who were close to Lu Jianhong in terms of strength and fame? Of course, they also wanted some power. In short, just as the Yang clan patriarch had said, the alliance was a very complicated matter. It was not something that could be decided with just a few words. With benefits in front of them, even if danger was not far from them, this group of people's hearts were still not united. Lu Jianhong looked at the crowd below expressionlessly. He sneered in his heart. At the same time, he felt very sad. Previously, he felt a little apologetic that he could not get over this hurdle. However, now that he saw this group of people, Lu Jianhong suddenly thought it through. With the strength of Lin Yi and the entire Hidden Devil clan, it was simply a piece of cake to deal with this group of people who were like a plate of loose sand. At this time, they were still scheming, fighting for power, and reaping benefits for themselves. If this group of people did not die, who would? Everyone looked at Lu Jianhong standing on the stage without saying a word. Everyone was puzzled. What did Lu Jianhong mean by this? The Yang clan patriarch also frowned and said, "Manor Master Lu, tell us, what exactly are you thinking? Even if you don't agree with this old man's opinion, you have to come up with a plan." Everyone present thought that Lu Jianhong did not want others to share his power as the alliance leader, which was why he was angry. However, Lu Jianhong said expressionlessly, "Are you ready?" Everyone present was instantly stunned. What was ready? What did they prepare? "I've been ready for a long time. I just wanted to let you see the true colors of this group of people. Manor Master Lu, I've said it before. The so-called good reputation and infamy are actually not important. Prestige is the most important. If you had the ability to crush them today, would this group of idiots dare to openly oppose you and want to share your power?" As the voice spread, Chu Xiu walked up the stage step by step from the back. Suddenly, there was a dead silence. Everyone looked at Chu Xiu, their eyes filled with extreme shock and fear. In West Chu Xiu had already killed quite a number of people, and the news had already spread. Of course, they knew what kind of image Lin Yi of the Hidden Devil clan had. In the end, Lin Yi, who should have been in West Chu, appeared here and stood openly with Lu Jianhong. Even an idiot would know what exactly had happened. The Yang clan patriarch pointed at Lu Jianhong while trembling and scolded angrily, "Lu Jianhong, you actually colluded with the demonic path to frame us. Damn it. Damn it. You don't deserve to be a son." The others had never expected that Lu Jianhong, the manor master of Red Leaves Manor, who was also the most powerful among them, would actually collude with the demonic path to frame them. Lu Jianhong said expressionlessly, "I was forced to do so." Everyone present didn't care so much and started scolding Lu Jianhong. At this moment, Chu Xiu struck out with his palm and hit Lu Jianhong's back. In an instant, Lu Jianhong fell to the ground, lifeless. Everyone present was stunned. Didn't this guy collude with the demonic path? Why was he killed too? Chu Xiu spread out his hands and said, "The demonic path doesn't like traitors either. I just lied to him. Since you all hate him so much, I'll send you down now. When you're down there, you can continue to seek revenge from him." You're tuning into the Carefree Valley YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.